Good evening and welcome to the Star Insurance Specialist Project Cars 2 New Zealand Championship. We're coming to you live from LPL Studios in the heart of Auckland City in the Sky Tower itself. My name is Matt Ross. I've got two of the biggest brains in motorsports in New Zealand, Simon Chapman and Brendan White. Gentlemen, we're into week 2. Week 1 was fantastic. Simon, I mean, what were the best parts of that?
Jordan Penny, he aced it completely. I think we saw just how good he was on those race starts. You know, I think that second race was really pivotal. Starting from the second row, he really managed to ace the clutch. And we spoke with Robert Northway as well, and he said he just couldn't quite get the car off the line. But Jordan Penny, he's on form.
Jordan Penny, the star of week 1. We'll see if that continues. But Brendan, now that we're into week 2, what can we expect for the week ahead?
Oh, well, it's exciting. It's kind of the home of motorsport, and it is Italy, and that's a great place to be. And we're going to find out about the tracks. We're also going to find about something very unique this coming weekend, which is the New Zealand D1NZ Grand Final presented by Link ECU. 200 kilometres per hour sideways, Pukekohe Park Raceway. This is a cheeky plug. That's right. If you're going to be somewhere, be at Pukekohe Park Raceway this weekend. Shane Van Gisbergen, first time sideways. Lots of famous drivers. Darren Kelly, Fanger Dan, be there. But right now in the studio, there's 16 tracks. 8 drivers all next door, ready to go. It is a championship fight.
That's right. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But before we go anywhere with that, I know all of you at home are wishing, why can't I play this game? Well, the fun news is that you actually can. Just get onto Twitter, on social media, Facebook, your choice really, but make sure you use that hashtag ProjectCars2NZ, and all you need to do is tell us what was the first car that you fell in love with. And I'm sure you guys definitely have a few of those.
Oh, man, Toyota Starlet for me. Yes, Toyota Starlet.
Oh, really? And, of course, Simon, 21 years old. How many cars have you possibly fallen in love with in that time?
My one and only, my Honda Integra. It's my love of my life.
Oh, Lord.
Well, that's a really good one. I personally love the Ginetta G55 GT4. I love it so much I messed up the pronunciation on it. But of course, gentlemen, let's take a look at how week 1 actually went, because we had a lot of great moments in that. And of course, like you said, Jordan Penny was the star of the show, but wasn't the only racer involved.
Yeah, no, we went to Laguna Seca, and obviously Richie, he was definitely one. Robert Northway, he was one to watch, but he just wasn't there just as much as Josh Ritchie. And Laguna Seca, that corkscrew really threw a few people off. And at the start of the race, a few people dropped down in the field, and they just couldn't make it back up.
Yeah, we saw Robert Northway had a few mistakes there at the front there as he tried to get up the order, and we saw a really good battle there down the order, but ultimately it was Penne leading Richie home, so really good race that first one.
Yeah, and then of course the second track being Willow Springs, it was a bit of the same story, at least at the front of the pack. Jordan Penne with a sizable lead on pretty much everyone. And there were a few more, spicy moments, I've got to say.
We found a lot of the drivers bedding in and really coming to grips with these simulations, these simulators, and who are the front leaders in this championship title fight, I guess, that we're going to see. And Willow Springs, it was a great one. But as we said, Penne, he was all the way out there in the front. Richie, he's going to be gunning for that first position this week, but he really has to be cool, calm, and collected to get up to that title spot, that top spot of the podium.
Yeah, and I think it's all about the races as well that are not just at the bottom of the pack, but the middle of the pack, looking to prove themselves. But take a look at the leaderboard. Something else as well, Robert Northway, one of the favorite racers coming into the start of the championship. While he's only in 3rd place, he did pick up both of the Star Insurance fastest laps of each track, earning himself a point each for those. But as you can see, Jordan Penne right at the top with that 50 points.
Yeah, Ethan Moore, Scott McQueen in the 5th position, Michael Robinson 6th, 7th position, Jake Kennedy Parker, and our favourite, Louis de Manila, the favourite Filipino. He's sitting down the bottom there, but he'll get in his groove, and it's really important those ones in 6th, 7th, and 8th get in their groove and actually get some points in for this second race of the championship.
But the important thing is, guys, that even if you are Louis all the way down at 8th place, you can come back. It's 8 weeks, 16 tracks. There's still a lot of racing to go, so you can crawl yourself all the way up that ladder, even if you are sitting down at that last spot. But, guys, it's week 2. We're going to Italy. Let's take a look at some of the tracks that we'll be racing. 2 tracks tonight, and Simon, I know you've got some opinions on these ones.
Yeah, fantastic circuits. We're going to Imola and Monza. Monza is the second track that we're going to go to. That's the home of the Italian Grand Prix. Imola used to host the San Marino Grand Prix. They used to alternate the two circuits on the Formula One World Championship. Two super fast circuits. They're going to have to be testing their limits though, because Imola's got big curves, so too does Monza.
Yeah, a lot of racers actually had a lot to say about these two tracks tonight. I mean, Brendan, you were talking to some of them before, and
They're not really liking the setup on the Ginetta in these tracks. These curbs are huge curbs, so if you push too wide, it really bumps it. Now, a lot of them are default settings, but the drivers, they're finding the dampenings and the bumpings on this car setup that it's just really not suited. The track's fast, Simon, obviously, is a big point. You talked about the drivers, and they're not really. The tracks last week were completely different to what we were actually seeing tonight.
Yeah, totally. And one of the things that they've got to get used to as well is those braking markers. Laguna Seca and Willow Springs were quite fast and flowing sort of circuits, whereas Monza, for example, is super fast in a straight line, then hard on the brakes. That's going to generate a lot of friction through the brakes, which is going to send a lot of temperature through the tyres. And obviously, as the temperature gets up, it's going to blow up those tyres with the PSI. So they've got to be careful, because what will happen is that they'll end up getting really loose with less contact patch. So yeah, we'll have a look at that when it comes to it, eh?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's take a look at the car that they will be racing in, those tyres that might get a little bit expanded as well. We've got the Ginetta G55 GT4, my first love of a car, in the beautiful flavour colours there. But tell us, Simon, what is so great about this car?
GT4 racing is a fantastic formula. This car in itself, one of the quicker ones, actually. I think it's one of the most successful in GT4 history, in fact. Reaches close to 270 kilometers an hour, 0 to 100 in 4.3 seconds, pushing 350 horsepower, weighs just over a ton, and it's delivering a lot of that power through the rear wheels. Rear-engined as well, and it's super fast. Got a lot of aerodynamic on top and on bottom.
And I say this every week. I say every week, but, it's only the second week. But the racers qualified in this car, so they are comfortable in it. They can race with the best in this car, so they've made it into the top 8. Now, of course, they're going to be put to the test. You were just mentioning perhaps not liking it so much for these specific tracks, but that's the nature of this beast, right? You've got 16 tracks with the same car.
You've got 16 tracks, and I think the key here is seat time, guys, and you've got to really stress that. So they had a lot of lead up into these first two races. Now, what we've seen with these drivers talking to them is they've only really spent an hour a night practicing it. So it's whoever's going to have the most seat time in these lead up to these races and commits the most time, they're going to have a bit of an advantage for sure.
Yeah, and of course, the racers that are actually driving that car are really what's going to be the most important thing. We did catch up with a few of the racers at Hampton Downs, the first one being Jake Parker. So let's see how he went down at Hampton Downs.
Hi, I'm Jake Parker. I'm from Formula Pro and I'm currently a student. I got my first steering wheel at 13 and that's really just been since then. I just love the racing games, to be honest. I really enjoy watching the Formula One and the Le Mans just because of the really cutting edge technology involved in that kind of racing. My goal for this competition, I'd like to get a podium in one of the races. My biggest strength is not taking things too seriously, and hopefully if I do make a mistake, I can have a laugh about it afterwards. My biggest weakness is I tend to not cope with pressure too good, so might bottle it, I'm not too sure. My plan is to keep it clean, stay out of trouble and have fun. I've only been go-karting once before, so I'm a bit nervous at the moment, but looking forward to getting back behind the wheel. Overall, I'm happy with the time that I set and I had good fun.
There we have it, Jake Parker sitting in at 7th place on the championship points leaderboard. Definitely going to want to make a mark on tonight if he wants to crawl up that. Now, of course, we've got him standing by to see how he's feeling before the big race.
Last week, you ended up 7th in the standings. Does that lower your confidence going into week 2?
Not really. To be honest, I came in last, so I'm moving up. You know, it's better than what I hoped. So I think there's a lot of real fast people here. So my expectations for the races aren't super high. It's just finish and hope, I don't crash.
How do you plan to approach these two Italian circuits? Do you feel more confident on one over the other tonight?
Definitely prefer Monza. Imola's got a lot of real nasty bumps compared to Monza, but yeah.
There are no penalties for cutting corners, which can be an issue on these circuits this week. Do you think we'll see any foul play tonight, and do you plan to use this to your advantage?
I'm not sure. I don't think we will. I personally won't. I don't think that's going to be the difference between me being right up the front with those other guys anyway, so it's just have a clean race, to be honest.
Good luck on the track.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, well, there we have Jake Parker sitting in at 7th place. You're welcome. And, of course, he's not sounding nearly as confident as some of the races we've got, but he's very humble. He recognizes, hey, look, I qualified last place. I've already become 7th, so I'm already improving. So it's looking like it's only going up from here.
Yeah, I think we saw that last week with Jono and, Mr. Penny, and he played the humble card and the quiet card, and from there, he just slowly stepped up and then boom, first place. We're definitely going to have to see Jake get into his groove and just jump up and commit, because he is sitting in the bottom of the pack and those championship points are important. But time will tell. We're about to find out with him.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Jake Parker definitely looking to come up. Again, he said Monza is his preferred track out of the two, but I feel like if you ask any of the races tonight, they would all say Monza, just because Imola is so punishing. Yeah. But, I mean, look, Jake Parker, I feel like his confidence is right where it probably should be, so props to him. Of course, we've also got another racer that we're featuring tonight, which is Josh Ritchie. My personal pick to be one of the top racers in here. I want to see him take out Jordan Penne. Let's see how he went down at Hampton Downs.
My name is Josh Ritchie. I'm from Auckland and I'm a computer engineer. Racing in general started with me in 2001 when I got my first game, Formula 1 2001. Actually, I was rubbish, and since then it's just grown. I've gotten myself into more realistic titles, and subsequently here I am now. The best thing about sim racing games is that you can hurl yourself into a wall at 400 kilometers an hour and you remain unscathed. One of my strengths, I believe, and possibly my biggest key strength, would be in my ability to adapt quite quickly. Biggest weaknesses would have to be there are 16 tracks on this calendar. 4 of them are in America, and I just have a disconnect with American tracks. As a go-kart driver, I'd rank myself as extremely bad. Personally, I've never really taken to karts, but I suppose we all have our weaknesses, don't we? My goal going into this session is just to have fun. It will be quite tricky going out on slicks on a wet track, but hey, where's the fun of the wet tyres? In my help lap, I feel as though I went quite well. There's a lot of learning, especially with the conditions being what they were, varying conditions and an ever-improving dry line. In the end, I was just there to have fun, I guess. So, yep, this is a big takeaway really for it. It's just a big day of fun, and it was just that.
Josh Ritchie, one of the most calculated races you'll see in the Project Cars 2 New Zealand Championship, currently sitting in at that 2nd place, looking to overtake Jordan Penne. We'll see how he's feeling before the race right now.
Placed 2nd in both races, and now a 2nd in the standings as a result. How do you plan to take down the current 1st place holder, Jordan Penne, this week?
Well, honestly, his pure pace is much better than mine so far. Whether that be down to experience or natural talent, whatever the case is, the fact of the matter is I've got to be able to counteract that. So really, I know I've got to be consistent at least. There will be rounds coming up which I will be stronger at. So it's about playing a consistency game and damage limitation on the rounds of which I would consider to be my worst.
What areas of your performance are you going to try and improve on this week?
Pure pace. Consistency is certainly there. Obviously, with the 2 second places, I wasn't really expecting that with my pure pace going into there. Tonight's sort of the same story. Really, I know consistency is there, so just work on the pure pace going from here on in.
As we move into Italy, do you think you're going to perform better on one of these tracks over the other tonight?
Certainly Monza. I think Monza really will play into my hands due to the slipstreaming nature of the circuit. Imola, not so much. But then again, as I said, on both these tracks, it just takes one mistake and you're flying off into a barrier. So it's best that you stay on the black stuff if you want a good result.
Good luck on the track tonight.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
And there we have it. Well, I mean, I was right. Another racer preferring Monza over Imola. I mean, not really any surprises there, right, guys?
Yeah, no major surprise, I guess. Imola is a circuit where you can really slipstream and make those passes happen. I think we saw earlier before, Josh was getting a little bit frustrated. He just couldn't quite get those apexes right and running a bit wide. As soon as you get onto that AstroTurf, the car gets super loose, and that loose setup on those cars doesn't help that, obviously.
Well, look, I'm just kind of falling in love with this character of Josh, you know, like, and no, it's just funny. He's so calculated and serious, but then he's got this really funny side to him. And you'll see it a bit later as he plays, and we watch the cameras, point view, we're watching him, and he gets really frustrated, and that actually affects him in his racing as well. You watch him, and he'll make a mistake, and when he makes that mistake, its mental game changes, and he really needs to just put that aside and focus on the game. Yeah, last week, second place. You know, he's done the GT before as well, and he really let the mental game affect him there. So one to definitely watch, and if he gets his A game, well, he could be taking Penny off that top podium spot.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But, of course, we'll see how he did on the track at Hampton Downs. We've actually got the leaderboard here. Remember, the two featured races last week also racing at Hampton Downs. And as you can see, guys, Jordan Pere at the top. No surprise. But, importantly, Josh Ritchie not in second place, actually dropping down to third. He said he was the worst, but... well, clearly not, because Louis falling in at fourth place.
Well, look, Louis is someone that would definitely think would be in first place too, with all that history. You know, he's driven Lamborghinis, he's done a lot of courses, but not so much.
Yeah, a little bit odd, I suppose, in some ways. He's actually had a lot of karting experience. He even did the BMW scholarship. So he's got that on-track presence. So perhaps a little bit surprising that he hasn't got the pace there. I actually noted before when he came in, he's got himself a few more pillows so he can get a little bit more comfortable in the hot seat.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about being comfy, right? So, of course, guys, we're about to get into the big race soon. But before we do, make sure you get onto social media if you want to win yourself a copy of the game. Thanks to Bandai Namco for hooking us up a PS4 copy. Make sure you get on Twitter with that hashtag ProjectCars2NZ and tell us what was the first car you fell in love with. But before we get into the race, guys, we are going to go to a short break. But make sure you stick around because this is going to be a great night of motorsports.
The crowd going wild. They want their boy to win.
But this whole eSport thing is absolutely blowing up overseas and, of course, right here in New Zealand.
Charles managed to get it. Oh! Whoa, slow-mo!
He goes underneath the jab with a debugger.
Ultimate Grand Final LPL styles. His name is Saint. He's one of the best players in the entire world, and he is here in New Zealand.
It is the Grand Final of the NBA 2K17 Championships.
We've got some established sports stars that have taken on the virtual arena in the form of Tom Abercrombie up against hardman Albert Vite from the mighty Vodafone Warriors.
What is this e-gaming? So tell someone like me who's a complete numpty at this sort of thing.
So e-gaming refers to competitive video gaming.
So there's big money in this?
The biggest prize pool to date so far was 21 million. There's a high school league at the moment that started at the start of this year. It features around about 100 schools throughout the country.
Now it's becoming a thing that if you do dedicate a lot of time to it and take it seriously, you can get somewhere with it.
Okay, thanks for sticking through the break with us. Now we're back and we're about to get into the race, but before we do, let's take a look at the conditions that we're going to be getting into. So, of course, remember, it's not all sunshine, or it might be tonight, who knows, but of course, there's going to be a big variety of weather conditions that the races are going to be going throughout all 16 tracks. We haven't seen anything too crazy yet, but let's see what we're going to get into tonight.
So here we go. Imola, one of the fastest circuits in Europe. It's a fascinating circuit. It's super fast. That's the key to this circuit, and it's got a few chicanes in there, a few upgrades. I think it's gone through about 8 revisions in its lifetime. 3.9 kilometers long, opened in 1952, and was actually a street circuit when it first opened. So, interesting corner to really look for is Tamburello, and we'll look into that a little bit later. But again, as the driver said, lots of curbs, and these guys through the first couple of corners are probably going to strike a little bit of trouble on that race start. So keep an eye on that when we go 2 by 2 into turn 1.
Yeah, and you guys can see, very clear day, so at least this track is going to be all sunshine, so I did tell a bit of a lie. But at the very least, you don't have terrible conditions on probably one of the hardest tracks that we're going to be seeing over the whole championship. And we'll go through exactly how it's going to work as well, because there is 10 minutes of qualifying first. So that's getting the fastest lap to decide who gets into the grid position, everyone gunning for that pole position. I mean, how important can that really be?
It can make or break your race. You've seen it so many times in so many races. Get P1 or P2, and if you're Penny or you're Northway, you're pretty much home and hose as long as you're consistent and you play the game right. So if you don't qualify well and you don't get at the top and you get at the back, well, your race could be over at the start. But anything can happen into turn 1.
All right, well, let's check in with the races here. They're already partway through the qualifying. Let's take a look and see who's already at the top. And gentlemen, are we really surprised?
We're not.
That's Jordan Panay right there at the top with the fastest lap so far. Now remember, this just means he gets into that pole position for the actual race, but like Brendan was saying, that's a pretty comfortable spot to be.
Yeah, look, I guess a bit of a surprise there is he had a really strong one last week and a really bad one, which is McQueen, and so he's sitting in second, and he's just behind Penny there. And these guys are running actually the same libraries each week. So right now we're on Jordan Penny. You can see the up the very top if you're watching from home. Currently watching Jordan Penny, and on the left-hand side of your screens there, you can see our beautiful sponsors, but also you can see the times right there. And as you go down in third position, now a really important thing to mention is where Robert Northway.
Yeah, I mean, look, Robert Northway, he should be right up there at the top. I mean, consistently getting the Star Insurance best lap of the race. But, Simon, look, I mean, why is he not at the top? Tell me.
I don't know, to be honest. He's been quick the entire time, and he's got some world records, but it's actually interesting to know he's not here. He's actually not here.
He's physically not here. What do you mean he's not here?
So one of the cool things about eSports and gaming in general is that you can connect all around the world. One of the guys was saying before that we could probably get some guys over who are playing in China if they wanted to. But Robert's actually at home right now. He's going to miss this week and the 5th week, but he's able to remote in from home to come and compete. So he doesn't miss out. He can still play and vie for those points. So he's up the top there, so it's really good to see that he's actually interacting with us.
Well, he actually just got bumped. We'll go on to Josh Ritchie now, second last week in both positions, both at Laguna Seca and at Willow. And now, so he's bumped Norway down. You're sitting in him. 151. Simon, 151.7, 151.56. What are fast times on this track?
Yeah, a low 151 is sort of your benchmark. That's what you're probably going to be going for. Jordan Penn is obviously he's slowly getting there, 151.5 now, and it looks like Richie is maybe just a 10th or 2 back. But fascinating to note that Josh is actually so high before, because when we talked to him pre-race, he had no confidence whatsoever. The pair of them were actually sitting right next to each other, and Richie was saying, what am I doing wrong? I can't seem to get the same level of confidence that Penny's getting. So obviously spent a little bit more time in the hot seat, and he's obviously found those purple sectors because he's doing quite well at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on Josh as he comes around. He's nearing the end of this lap, and he's actually gone really wide, so that time might not be allowed, but we'll keep an eye on it. You got to be careful around this track, because those curves, they can upset the attitude of the car and really send it wide. And it looks like maybe just took a little bit too much curve. So here we go. We're looking at Scott McQueen now, currently in P3, half a second back of Jordan Penny in P1.
Yeah, I mean, and remember, guys, this is a qualifying lap. It's not the actual race, which means that if you mess up one lap, don't worry. You've got a few more to go. It's when we get to the real race that screwing up on a lap could mean the entire race for you. So at least here, you've got a few goes to get that best shot possible.
Now, Scott McQueen, who you've got right now in car, he's got unfinished business. He actually got taken out at Willow last week. So I said, who took you out? And he just went quiet. So he's definitely got unfinished business. He knows that. He got third at Laguna. So, you know, he's had a couple of hours each night to practice. So he's committed the time. You're seeing that with his time. And he's right there on screen as we speak. Now, Scott's actually from Tauranga, and he actually went out and he actually saw us promote this event. So this is a great thing. If you're watching at home, he went out and he just bought the game and he practiced for 2 weeks and he made it into the actual event. So anybody can do that. So if you want to have a go at this, get on involved, go down to your local shop, buy Project Cars and actually have a go at it. So he's from Tauranga, practiced, and you know, he's committing the time. He's a bit all over the track there and qualifying, but prime example of actually just giving it a go, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, also the other great thing about motorsports in esports is that there's a lot of crossover, right? You've got real world motorsports, people coming in with experience from that. You've got people with experience from other games in the genre, and then they're all coming together in Project Cars 2 New Zealand and able to actually show those talents off. So a big variety of players coming in today.
Yeah, I think it's really important to also say, like, we see online a lot of top drivers. Darren Kelly, one of the New Zealand champions for drifting, plays online. Shane van Gisbergen, in his spare time, plays online. Now, these are the guys at the pinnacle of success of motorsport. So, yes, it's a game, but it's so great to see motorsport and esport coming on and actually combining the two together.
And do you know that you could actually be a simulator driver for a job?
Really?
That exists. That job exists out there. There was recently a competition run by McLaren, which basically pipped the best simulator drivers in the world against each other to basically get a job at McLaren being a simulation driver. Now, how cool is that? You can just be playing on your Xbox at home and all of a sudden you're at McLaren. Now, there's actually an interesting story about 6 or 7 years ago. Young Jan Mardenborough actually competed in the GT Gran Turismo Academy over in the UK, and since then he obviously won it, and he's competed in the Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand, also in Super GT and Super Formula over in Japan. So being good at race cars on Xbox or PlayStation can actually get you a job. You can make a career out of that. So, you know, guys like even Brendan Hartley, Richie Stanaway, these guys were actually full-time drivers, full-time simulator drivers for the likes of Mercedes and Williams F1. So, you know, it's not out of the realms of possibility. We might see these names popping up in years to come.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And Ethan Moore could be one of those names, currently sitting at the 4th fastest lap for the qualifying. And, well, I mean, guys, just talk us through how he's taking each of these corners, right? Because Ethan Moore has impressed us before, but is he impressing you so far tonight? Well,
let's stay on board with him for a little while now and see how he attacks these curbs. He's really, really taking that curb quite heavily. We can see, obviously, in the in-car there, he's super loose over the curb. So, again, like a lot of these drivers were saying earlier, they prefer Monza because it's just fast, whereas Imola here is obviously quite a challenge to get the really fast line around here. Let's see into the penultimate corner there. Oh, just a little bit loose, maybe just too hot into that corner. It takes a little bit of curve this time. It's going to take a little bit of curve on exit. Now, exit curves, not too bad. It's more those entry curves that you've got to be concerned about, because if you hit the curb too hard and too fast, it's going to send your car into the air. So we'll just watch him as he crosses the line now. Ethan Moore down the order. Let's see if he can drop up the order into P4. Maybe he's a 2.5 seconds adrift of Jordan Penny. And as you said before, that 151 marker that I was talking about, he's actually smashed that. A 159.77 by Jordan Penny, now 3/10 ahead of Richie in P2.
Now, I think a really important thing around Ethan Moore as well was last week we actually had a race restart and he was feeling really on form. You know, he had really good mojo in his own words. And then his sim, like in normal racing, restarts happen. His sim went down and it just botched his mojo. So that was Ethan for race 1. You know, he finished 6th, and then in race 2 he finished 3rd. So on board now with Jake Parker, one of our star feature racers for tonight. Mr. Parker he's only been spending a couple hours a night on this versus some guys that have been spending a lot of time on it. Once again, another driver, he wants Monza. He's not happy about this track, and he really doesn't like, in his own words, he just wasn't feeling that the car was set up right for these tracks. But, you know, he's a feature racer, and he's just got to push that aside and bank some fast scores. Right now, he's in 6th.
Well, His lap there didn't manage to improve that, at least his position. And of course, remember that Jake Parker coming into this qualified in 8th and isn't too worried about how he's doing. He just wants to improve and just wants to not come last. And so far he's doing that. Currently in 7th place overall in championship points, and he's definitely not last in the current qualifying race, sitting there in 6th. So, I mean, if you count this, then, well, he is improving. If you count that, then, well, I'm sure you guys have a few words about that one.
And that is straight up just evidence of using too much curb. He just didn't get his line ace that time by, and it sent him wide off into the gravel and into the grass. So not a great lap there for Jake Parker. He's only got a minute left. Can he get round and maybe scratch one more lap against his name? So now Louis De Manila currently down in P7 at the moment. Not last at least, but obviously still a lot of time to catch up. Still 1.9 seconds adrift of Jordan Penny at the top.
I'm just wondering if Robert is actually around, if he's actually qualifying at the moment, because you know he holds correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, he's one of the ones that holds world championships. Yes. So Matt, he actually holds world championship titles, not in this particular game, but he's E-famous. Is that what you would call it?
I can tell you right now, that's the first time I've ever heard anyone say E-famous. Right. But I might steal it because I kind of like it. It's got a nice little ring to it. But yeah, I mean, Robert Northway is one of the best racers in this game in the world. I mean, in the qualifying laps, I was checking the leaderboards each day, and he was sitting up there at top in the world for some of these tracks. Look at Louis.
What is Louis
big
up
smile
to?
on his face.
No headphones on, just big smiles. He's like, oh, I'm off.
He's got the pillows in behind.
No headphones on, I noticed. Yeah, he's pillows.
No seatbelt either.
Yeah, so interesting to see, just have noticed that Robert's sitting there in 8th position, so whether he's just checked out and he's getting some dinner while everyone else qualifies, or who knows, maybe it's tactics to start at the end of the race, but that's going to be interesting. He really wants to be up the top. Like we mentioned earlier, he needs to be by Penny and Richie. Those are the ones that are going to
might be mixing up your tri-codes there, as Rob actually is Michael Robinson, and Robert Northway, of course, the racer we were talking about before, is sitting around 5th place there. Yeah, so, I mean, still not where he wants to be at all. But Michael Robinson, I think, is feeling a little less confident about that. But, I mean, I still just want to point out how casual Louis is looking right now. Like, I bet he's sitting there as well with his headphones turned up as loud as they can go, kind of acting like pseudo speakers, and maybe even annoying some of his other racers as well. Because remember, guys, they're all sitting next to each other in the simulators.
Yeah. They take it very seriously, too. One thing I noticed, when you go in those pods, and I don't know if we'll get a crossover look. Looks like we might have been. Looks like that might be it.
I think the checkered flags come out now. So I think we've reached the end of that session, and we'll hopefully get the order to us at the moment. So it looks like Jordan Penny, he's going to take pole position for race 1 here for the evening, and it looks like we've got Josh Ritchie in P2, which I guess is another surprising result considering, you know, that he just wasn't confident at all. And to see Scott McQueen up in P3, that's good. He was quietly confident, I think, that he would get a really good lap in. But again, it was interesting. We spoke to him before at the start of this race, and he was watching Jordan set some times and then waiting for his ghost to come by, and then he'd just mimic what Jordan was doing. So, you know, easy way to learn.
That's exactly what I did. I actually had to go, and these are actually incredibly hard to drive. So I had to go, and I just followed the drivers, and yeah, I didn't keep up at all, but very intelligent thing to do there, especially off Penny.
But that's the great thing as well about this being a video game, is that you can just get someone's ghost from anywhere in the world. If they've saved a replay of their race, you can say, hey, look, I want to see what this guy does on the track. And like we're just talking about, you can emulate them. You can see, like, what is this guy doing that makes him so fast, makes his lap time so good? And you can just emulate it and try your best to do the same thing. So we'll get a look at the qualifying times in a second, but I'm excited to see. I mean, we already know Jordan Penny is sitting there at the top, but let's have a look at exactly how the grid is going to look.
So it looks like we got Jordan Penny on pole position with Josh Ritchie beside him in P2. The second row will be made up of Scott McQueen and Ethan Moore. Row 3, Robert Northway and Jake Parker. And then down on the final row, it'll be Louis De Manila and Michael Robinson. Just 2 seconds covering the entire field here and 3/10 between first and second. So I think we're going to see an intense battle between Josh Ritchie and Jordan Penny once this race starts.
I just want to say, though, as well, that leaderboard kind of looks exactly how we imagined the races to go. If you averaged out the track 1 and track Laguna Seca and Willow Springs, that's probably about what we'd see there. Maybe a few shuffles, but the top of the board is kind of what I was predicting.
Yeah, well, the front runners, I guess Penny and Richie, they're going to be hoping for a real clean start. And Robert Northway, he's sitting down in fifth. He's going to be hoping for a bit of a messy start and get that jump straight off the grid there, at that race. So it's all going to come down to this first corner and really who gets the jump on the start line.
I mean, I know I have seen some very messy first corners in my time. My first time on a broadcast, I saw probably the worst corner of Bathurst in anyone's lifetime.
I was there. They just all went everywhere.
To be fair, that was a celebrity race. These guys, they weren't practicing for weeks to try and qualify for that, but it was still quite messy. But even then, the guys that were in the actual competition, they still somehow managed to mess that one up too a little bit. So first corners can be very, very tricky, especially in the grid start. So guys, what are we expecting? What is the most important thing to look out for?
What I'm hoping for is a messy start because I really don't want to see Penny and Richie just jump on out of the lead.
They're not hoping for that.
You know, we want to see some good battles and some good racing, but what you're going to look out for at home is Penny and Richie and Robert Northway. Simon?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting start. Jordan's obviously acing those starts every single race we've seen so far from row 2. He managed to get up through to the lead at Willow Springs. So I think watch Penny off the start. He's probably going to be the guy who's going to get the whole shot into turn 1. A guy like Josh Ritchie, I think, is also quite good on the start. So I think we'll see those guys going maybe 2x2 into turn 1 into Tamburello. But it's that chicane that's going to be really dicey because even in real world racing and things like German Formula 4 or Italian Formula 4, these guys are not afraid to bump wheels. So we might see a few going off through the gravel at the turn 1.
Yeah, I think also who I want to watch out for is Robert Northway, see what he can do with a good start. But guys, we are moments away from getting into the race. It can come on the screen any moment now. There it is. And as you can see, Jordan Penne in that pole position.
All right, here we go. Jordan Penne alongside him. Josh Ritchie, the revs are rising. Let's watch these cars take off. Who's going to get the whole shot into turn 1? It looks like a fairly clean start by Jordan Penne. Looks like Josh Ritchie's going to slot into P2 and McQueen maybe P3 there as they're going too wide behind. Looks like maybe McQueen's going to show his nose down the inside. Let's see. Oh, 3 wide into turn 1. There might be a little bit of drama. It looks like one guy's gone off. Maybe that was Robert Northway. He doesn't seem to get the best starts here. But look, Jordan Penne, he's just gapped the field already, and Ritchie is slotted into P2. Maybe a few headlights at the back there. Looks like Robert Northway. He's got his headlights ablaze as they head into the second chicane here. And already we've seen Jordan Penne. He's got a fairly decent lead already.
Robert Norway, he's got a lot of work to do. All of a sudden, right from back. So, he went from 5th to last. So that's it. But Penne and Ritchie, he's right up there. But we've still got Rubbings Racing, and we've still, besides Penne, we've got a really close field coming up over the hill.
Yeah, it's good to see that Ritchie is just holding on to P2 at the moment. He wasn't too confident, obviously, going into this race that he'd be able to beat Penne, but I think he'll be pretty happy at the moment to be maintaining P2 because obviously he didn't have that confidence and he didn't think he'd be anywhere near these guys. I think having McQueen behind him, McQueen's got that experience. He knows what Penne is like around the circuit, so we might see a really good battle unfold with those two as the race progresses. And it looks like already Ritchie is maybe taking a bit of a defensive line, and that's allowing Penne to sort of maybe stretch his legs a little bit. 1.2 seconds the margin already, as we see a lot of these guys taking an alternative racing line. In normal racing terms, that would probably be considered exceeding track limits, but not here tonight. We're not really too concerned about penalties, but yeah, Penne, it looks like he's already established a 1.5 second lead. Let's see as they come through the final section.
And I think that's an important thing to point out is we don't have a room of Motorsport New Zealand officials watching this race. Now, if you jump a curb or go really, really wide or take a shortcut, the people, the powers that be, the voices of God will impose a penalty, and sometimes you might have to drive through pit lane. But in this case, it's all off. It's all turned off. But jumping a curb in this race will still hurt you because it just puts your car off. It loses traction. It really takes you off the line. So we're on board here. McQueen goes for the pass down the inside on this very symbolic corner to this racetrack.
Yeah, it looks like Ritchie's maybe taking a bit of an alternative racing line there, goes skipping through the grass. Looks like McQueen is obviously putting a lot of pressure on there. Yeah, and as you say, Tamburello, a sad corner, I guess, in many ways. The circuit has gone through about 8, 9, 10 revisions, I think it is, ever since it first opened in the early 1900s. Obviously, the late, great Ayrton Senna obviously died at that corner after he crashed in the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, which prompted a big change at the circuit and a big change in world motorsport in terms of stepping up safety.
Reactions to that, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was. And one of the things that actually happened was we had a lot of other circuits make major changes. So if you actually go onto Google right now and you look up Spa-Francorchamps and you look at, I think it's 1994, maybe 95, as we see one of the other drivers going off wide, it looks like maybe passes just dropping back a little bit. But yeah, they did change the circuits quite a lot immediately after Ayrton Senna's crash, and a lot of other changes came in motorsport as well because of that.
Yeah. And if you haven't watched that movie, get onto Netflix or one of those illegal sites and actually watch it. There's a cool little battle going on right now down the back between Parker and Moore and North. Oh, he's actually made himself... Robert Northway has jumped up. He's made a few positions now, which is good for him. So he's actually climbing through the field. And the field is close in proximity right now. So besides Pene, you know, once again, we're seeing a really regular occurrence with him. But besides this, what a little battle going on down here, coming back onto the front straight.
It's great as well because now we're really truly seeing Louis de Manila get tested, because he's got, of all people, Robert Northway right behind him. In fact, actually just overtaken him pretty
It's Michael
recently.
Robinson. Michael Robinson is behind him.
So it looks like Ethan Moore's going to go side by side here with Jake Parker down the front straight into Tamburello corner. Who's going to take the position? Or maybe a little bit of contact, but a hip and shoulder. And it looks like maybe we got one around, maybe Northway.
That is Northway.
Oh, good recovery then. Great recovery from Robert Northway, especially considering it looked like he was going to be facing the opposite direction. He's got those headlights ablaze still. And it looks like Jake Parker has just held on, just up the order. It looks like McQueen is putting a lot of pressure on Richie. And already we're seeing Pene, he's out to a 2.5 second lead now. This is fantastic racing in the early stages here at Imola. Good to see some really tight racing, considering at Laguna Seca and Willow Springs, the field sort of spread out. So this is really good to see.
I mean, guys, how much of an advantage is it to be so far ahead like Jordan Pene is right now? You don't have to worry about all the other races getting up in your grill.
Well, the big thing, this is something that Scott Ritchie talked about with his, I guess his strategy is he wanted to get out a good lead in second or a good lead in first so he could button off, because you make mistakes when you're pushing hard. So he actually said last week he was really trying to push hard to catch up to Pene, and he started making mistakes, and he started pushing it wide. So he buttoned off and he goes, look, I'm going to settle for second, and that's it. So it's great to be Pene up the front there, but you know, these back races, that's where the action's happening right now. And Norway, you know, one thing we just saw before, he tried to make that cut on turn one between the chicane. And cutting doesn't help you, clearly. He lost a lot of ground on that.
No doubt. He took way too much curb, obviously, through turn 1 and 2, and it cost him a lot of time. He got into the side. I think it might have been Jake Parker and Ethan Moore just up ahead of him, and it looks like those guys just behind might have just started spreading out a little bit. It looks like Jake Parker doesn't have too much pressure on him from Ethan Moore, and maybe we've just got a little bit of an issue.
So Michael Robinson, you can see on the mini-map on the right-hand side of your screen, he is so far behind the rest of the track that it's just not funny. I mean, he's even further behind than Jordan Pene is further ahead. And that is really saying something. It's going to be a monstrous effort for him to catch up to anyone at this point.
Yeah, look, he got a 5th and a 6th last week, and he said in his interviews, he said he's happy if he's not last. So right now he's just got to jump up one and he'll be happy to do that. But yeah, not a great one. And he does prefer Monza as well. All these drivers prefer Monza. So that'll be a real interesting one. Now, another thing we've got to remember is this is 14 laps. Last week we were 20 laps. And explain us, Simon, for the viewers at home, what's the difference between a sprint and an endurance?
Well, endurance races is by definition a much longer race. These races obviously all sprint races. Imola hosts to the European Le Mans series every once in a while. Once a year they come here, and you can be having 3 or even 6-hour endurance races around a circuit like this, and that's what this circuit is built for. There's a lot of runoff area, so if you make a mistake, you can come back on course and obviously finish the remaining few hours. Tonight, though, we're just doing 14 laps. It's just an all-out sprint. No pit stops, no worries about fuel or tyre wear. It looks like we've got a really good battle here between Ethan Moore and Jake Parker. Maybe Ethan just didn't get the exit that he wanted to, because he was right up close behind Jake Parker, and Parker's just stretched his legs a little bit as they come into the right-left chicane. Ooh. Just be careful over those curves too, and it looks like Ethan, again, maybe a little bit of a mistake there. He's just relinquished a bit of time. Let's hopefully see behind him. Let's see if Robert Northway is on his tail. We'll hopefully see it pan around a second. And look, Robert Northway, he's got the pass done on Ethan Moore. Northway making up a few positions, and he's into the top 5.
Oh, side by side coming down the hill. Parker, though, you know, Parker's doing actually quite well this week compared to, you know, you've got some really good drivers behind him there. Now, I guess a big thing with Moore was he actually did really well in the second race last week. He got a 3rd position. So he's actually, I guess, a lot better driver than Parker, judging by the standings. But then you've got, obviously, Robert Northway, who's better than both of them. So these 3 here could be a little tussle and bustle coming up.
Yeah, it's already pretty exciting. And Ethan Moore, again, we don't mention him too much compared to some of the other names so far, but he has, like you said, made that top 3 position in one of the races so far. Scott McQueen as well, on the flip side, 3rd place in the first track last week, 8th place in the second track.
Yeah,
for that
3rd
week.
and last.
Yeah, 3rd and last. A real difference there, and as well, so really showing how consistency is absolutely king here.
Well, he's right on Richie right now. And one thing he said is he got taken out last week. And he's really shown, for someone who's only had the game for, say, 3 to 4 weeks, and he's not a regular gamer, he's just put in the time, he's really got him quite well compared to someone, Josh Ritchie. You know, he takes this so seriously, and I really like his personality because he takes it so seriously, but then he really, chucks it
McQueen's
away.
overcooked it. Can he recover?
That's going to hurt him, though. You can see. Watch Josh Ritchie. He'll get a good gap on him now.
I was just about to say, McQueen is just driving so smooth. We saw his onboard action there, and he was just caressing the car through the corners, and it didn't look too bad. So it looks like just behind, Robert Northway is going to send it down the inside of Jake Parker. Can he pull it up into the chicane? Oh, there's a bit of contact, it looks like. We'll see side by side soon as they come out of the chicane. Maybe Ethan Moore's going to get back involved, and Parker's dropped back to P6 now. So Robert Northway, bit of hip and shoulder going into the chicane, and Ethan Moore might be the benefactor of this.
Side by side, Parker in the rear. Coming down, there's only going to be one coming to this corner.
It looks like Northway gets a little bit loose, but he's just held on. He just backed it into the corner, and it's a really good result from that one. And Jake Parker gets into the left rear corner.
You've got to give it to Parker, though. He's doing really well, even a little bit sideways, but doesn't lose a lot of proximity coming through there.
Parker's just dropped 2 places in the space of 1 lap. We were just giving him props. It's the commentator's curse.
Commentator's curse, yes. It happens all the time, especially in drifting. Oh, he's doing so well, and then boom, straight off the track he goes. It's like they're listening to us.
They're always listening. Jake Parker, he's, like you said, we're giving a lot of props. He's fallen down through positions. And remember, Robert Northway as well, one of the races that just overtook Parker, he has taken a lot of punishment early on in this race. And look at how he's recovered.
Yeah, he's definitely making those positions up. He's actually jumped halfway up the field as we're coming up to the halfway mark in the actual race as well. Now, it's going to be really interesting to see how these fields transition into Monza, because none of them liked it. Oh, a bit sideways there as well as we come through. Good little battle going on here.
Important to remember as well is that all the damage, like you said earlier, is completely visual. There's no actual effect on the car itself. It just makes it look a little uglier. But it does mean that we can actually see some of the results of these mistakes that the races have been making. You can see little bumps on the bumpers, little indents, and even if you're lucky, you'll see a car with no boot at one point. But who knows? Maybe we'll get to that point at some point.
So one of the elements, obviously, of this race that these guys are going to be dealing with, especially for someone like Penny up front, is getting into clear air and hopefully seeing some more quick lap times. For someone down the order like Michael Robinson, he'll be hopefully just doing a little bit of hot lapping and maybe get that Star Insurance Specialist extra point for getting the fastest lap of the race. So we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully we'll get a time coming up shortly to see who's the quickest at the moment as we approach that halfway race distance. But it looks like Richie's just holding on to P2 at the moment, fairly consistent. He knows he's consistent, but he just got to get that overall pace. McQueen looks like he was maybe 7/10 slower on that last lap. We'll see them come across the line and see what Richie's time was. Looks like a 1:52.78 and a 1:52.29. So McQueen, he's caught back some of that margin. And this is one of the important parts of the circuit too, because there's a lot of opportunity to draft and make up time through this chicane. Now it looks like Richie's gone around and he's dropped out of P2 now. Richie's thrown it all away. He's got to recover really quick so he doesn't drop more time to Northway, who will be coming along quickly. He will be absolutely spewing after that. Here comes Northway. Is he going to be able to get a run into the second of the chicanes? Northway with his headlights ablaze. He's going to slip under. He's going to send it down the inside. Oh, not quite. Richie just holds on, but he will be seething after making what was a rookie mistake.
Now, this is really important. This is what I was saying earlier with Richie. He makes a mistake as we look at this little bit on Norway has another look, and Richie will be in this mind frame right now. And if he doesn't get himself out of it really fast, he'll get passed by these next 3 guys. And that's what happens with him, man. You can see it. Norway takes another look down the left, but it's a right-hand corner. And you can hear the production crew in there actually really going wild in the production studio as well.
Richie trying to shut the door on Northway down the inside. It looks like Northway's got the position. We'll go trackside now into the second of the big sweeping right-handers. Richie's just had to slot in behind Northway now. Northway, what a recovery from last on the grid after that mistake on lap 1. Has gotten into the podium positions. What a fantastic drive on only lap 7 of 14.
Absolutely amazing. But like you said, lap 7, remember there's 14 laps. We're only over halfway. And so that mistake that we just saw out from Richie can come out from any driver. this can still be anyone's race.
That's super costly, though, for Richie, who's currently P2 in the standings, who needs to be up there with Penne. Penne currently leading, and he will probably just gap them now based on the result in this race. It looks like Northway getting a little bit loose there. Maybe Richie's going to have a run onto the straight here. Let's see. This is one of the really good places on the circuit to get that slipstream.
Yeah, the Star Insurance Specialist, fastest lap of the race. Jordan Penne, no surprises there at 1:51.718. And, well, I mean, I say no surprises, but it's the first time he's shown up.
We're going again, side by side into that all-important, famous corner.
Tamburello,
this
as they
doesn't
call
work,
it.
we're too wide.
And this is one of the important things too.
Nice
It looks like Northway was a little bit compromised into that chicane, and Richie got a pretty good exit that time. So let's see if Richie can get the slipstream into the second of the SS3 here. Northway just needs to maintain that position. He's still got the headlights ablaze, obviously keen to make up some more time as we go on board here with Richie. Quite aggressive on the wheel. They're going to head into the left-handed here, but hard on the brakes. Make sure you don't lock up those front wheels. It looks like Northway maybe just missing the apex there a little bit. Gets a little bit loose on exit as we see Richie, a face of composure. Oh, maybe a little bit upset after that one.
Yeah, I want to point out as well, very visual person when you see him racing, is that anytime you see him make a mistake, even a slight one, not like the one we saw before, you will see it on him. Yeah. He will be sitting there, perhaps swearing to himself, saying, but most importantly, saying, how can I do that better? How can I make sure I can come back in this race? So while he's a very emotional racer, he's still very calculated.
He's got his head in the game right now, because you can watch it on his face. He's looking over to his competitors. He's taking a quick look, so he's taking this serious. Interesting thing to point out, though, is Penny's buttoned it off a bit. So he's doing fast laps and he's buttoned it off. He knows he's got that big lead, so there's no point in pushing him and making a mistake. So we can't even see Penny out there, but right now it's all about Josh Ritchie. He's dropped those positions, but my God, what a comeback by Robert Northway. And this is the reason he's got multiple championship titles and games all around the world. And he is going to be one. I reckon he will be the one for Monza as well to watch out for. And he's going to be a top championship contender moving forward.
Well, it's actually fascinating to see Robert down the order so much, considering that he does hold those lap records. I believe he's second fastest in the world of anyone around Laguna Seca. You can go online and search that sort of stuff up. There are leaderboards and his name features quite prominently. So Robert, obviously quite quick in Project Cars as a simulation. He's got a lot of experience, but to see him down in P3, maybe we haven't seen the best of him, and it looks like he's actually making up a fair bit of time to McQueen, and McQueen, he did a 2-minute flat that last time, so maybe we've just missed a little bit of a mistake there from Scott McQueen on lap number 7, I think.
Could be a bit of that green, or that I guess he's new to this racing, so, you know, concentration with someone like Norway is definitely key, you know, and that's that consistency. It's not a quick 5-lap race, it's 14 laps. And one slight mistake, which McQueen could be green on, could happen. So he's closing the gap quite nicely here.
Yeah, Robert Northway at 1.8 place in this race, and now all the way up to 3rd. And I am damn sure that he is going to make his best effort to take McQueen here in the next few corners.
As we go on board here with Robert Northway, we're heading into the final sector here at Imola. Maybe 5 or 6 laps just to go. McQueen, he's going to have a lot of pressure now heading into the chicane. And look at the margin that Northway is able to get back on McQueen as they head into that right-left, really tight chicane. This is another good position on the circuit to get the slipstream and hopefully sort of mount an attack when they come onto the front straight now. They're going to head into the 90-degree left-hander, go hard on the brakes, tip it in early, make that corner as straight as possible, use all the exit curb, and even a little bit more there from McQueen, it looks like. Get a really good run onto the front straight and tuck in behind that rear wing. Let's see, Northway, maybe not this lap, but maybe in 1 or 2 laps to come, might be able to mount a charge on the front straight, because he's just setting himself up as he flashes the headlights coming down the front straight.
I'm here. It's going to be this turn 1 to see it, and whether he makes the dive on the brakes down on the inside. Let's watch it for here. Not quite, just not close enough.
It looks like some different lines being taken here. McQueen perhaps on the defensive end as he gets a little bit loose out of Tamburello. Maybe Northway's going to look to the inside here. Surely not. side by side into the second of the S's. McQueen gives some space. Northway goes onto the grass, and they're going to compromise themselves, and this will allow Richie back in P4 to join onto the battle soon if they're not careful. Side by side into the hairpin. Is Northway going to be able to stick it around the outside? Surely not. Uses a bit of the exit curb, and he has to relinquish the position, and now he's going on defensive. Richie in P4 will be attacking, no doubt. Let's have a look as they're going to head into this big, fast, sweeping left-hander. It looks like Richie's going to take the advantage, perhaps, heading into this corner. They're going to go side by side once more. Richie, got to be careful going onto that AstroTurf. You don't want to get too loose. Now, the battle for P2 in this race is really heating up. So, no, Northway's around. He's gone.
Chucks
He's
it
thrown
away.
it all away, having come from 8th to 2nd. Northway's just thrown it away. He got onto the dirt.
Lost
Crucial
the words.
mistake.
The world champion. We were just commentators cursing again. Once again, promoting him, and then he just bins it. Well,
He's
that makes
straight
it
back onto the back of Parker.
Headlights
that, though.
ablaze as well. And it just shows the difference between a consistent racer and a world champion at hot laps. That's one lap. He's got to do 14 in a row, at least to a decent effort, at least not doing that. And unfortunately, this is a common theme.
So hopefully we'll get a replay in a moment to see just went wrong there with Northway as he's going to try and get another move done on Parker. Let's see as they come into... Yeah, he just dropped that left rear wheel onto the grass. A rookie mistake. That's all it was.
Would have been just rubbing his hands. I wish we had a replay of Josh Ritchie's face
He
when
would
that
have
would
been
have happened. It would have been
stoked.
smiles ear to ear.
But
McQueen
look,
up
we're
the
back
front
into
there
that
now.
battle.
Richie on the chase. Now, if Northway can pull that back and come up those ranks again,
Surely.
It's got 3 laps.
all he's got to learn to do is be consistent, and he would be up there with Penne.
It's disappointing to see it, and I gave him props before for having those world record times, and he's just thrown it all away. Consistency clearly just not on his side tonight. 2 mistakes, 2 crucial mistakes, but he's obviously got the pace. P6 at the end of this race, maybe P5 if he can get Parker, is not representative of his time, and I think we'll see a really interesting sort of battle come through maybe when we do Monza.
Josh Ritchie, again, remember, keep your eye on this racer. I mean, literally, look at him in the corner of your screen, or the side of your screen. Look at the concentration on his face. He said he'd be all smiles, but I deep down knew that he just wants that second place. I mean, really wants the first place. It's kind of out of reach right now, but second place is where it's at. He needs to get it.
Well, the big thing here is all these drivers in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, no championship points. It's great to have that 1 point for the fastest lap, but there's 25 points on offer for first, as it comes down. And they're competing for real money in this game. Overseas, people are competing for, $25 million now.
Yeah, I mean, eSports has some of the biggest prize pools in all of sports, to be honest. It has a bigger prize pool than sports like tennis, basketball even, and so it's absolutely ridiculous that you can play video games and make millions of dollars.
We've got the UFC prize fighters and Conor McGregor singing how much they
Let's
take
get
out.
them on board.
If you work out how much they earn per minute, it's ridiculous. Even if they lose, they both walk out winners with how much they earn.
So let's have a look here. Josh Ritchie's going to get into the slipstream here of McQueen. I don't want to do the commentator's curse, but we've got to give some props to Scott McQueen, who's doing a valiant effort to hold off Ritchie. Ritchie just shows that nose, maybe just taking a peek, showing that he's there. McQueen looks a little bit loose out of Tamburello. Perhaps under the pressure, under the pump. Can he hold on?
Yeah, you've got to feel a lot of pressure with Ritchie right up your rear because, seriously, this guy we've been giving him a lot of praise. He has made mistakes in this race so far, and he's still managed to catch up to McQueen as well. So McQueen, like you were saying before, maybe a few mistakes on some of his laps, but if he just keeps up this consistency, which is keeping him in second place, then he should be safe.
So we're just keeping an eye on the battle here between Josh Ritchie and Scott McQueen. Scott McQueen in that yellow and red liveried Ginetta G55 GT4, almost reminiscent of Lightning McQueen from Cars.
Not sure if we're allowed to say that.
Good chat.
Lightning McQueen would be furious if he was second, though.
Yes.
If you're not first, you're last. That's for sure. So let's keep an eye.
So Penny up again there. He's just buttoned off that speed. He did do a fast lap before. He's currently Star Insurance Specialist, fastest lap. And he's just got the clear air. He has no pressure on him. This is really now going to be his championship to lose. If he wins next race, then it's all on him. 151.78.
It's the same lap time he had before. No one has improved it, not even himself. But we were saying earlier, I mean, why does he need to push? It's 1 extra point, sure. He's already so far ahead in the leaderboard with championship points. He's so far ahead in this race that all he has to do is have a catastrophic crash to get into second place. So just take it easy.
So let's just stay on board here for a lap with Jordan Benny, obviously a master of his craft. We're going to head through to the second of the yeses here. Maybe let's just spend an entire lap just listening to how good and how smooth Jordan Benny is around Imola.
Jordan Penne now on into his final lap of the 14-lap race tonight, and still so far ahead, and just listening to the beautiful hum of the engine there.
So here we go. This is the real battle that's left.
It is, isn't it?
It's the only battle, really.
These guys have done so well then. You've really got to give it to McQueen. Richie, you know, he's looking again. He's looking for that slipstream. He's got a lot better proximity there. He takes a look on the outside. He's going to slip through into the inside. Has he got it, McQueen? Will he block? He pushes in. Oh, it's Robbins racing through one of the most treacherous corners in this track. And he gets it. Job done. Can he hold on to it now?
Let's have a look as they're going to come through the second of the S's here. It looks like Scott McQueen maybe got a little bit compromised through Tamburello, and he's not going to be able to mount a charge here at this corner perhaps. Richie, maybe a little bit shallow through that line there. Let's see, he's got a good slipstream into the hairpin. Is McQueen going to do what Northway did and try and go around the outside? Richie has to defend, and that's going to compromise his line. McQueen gets a fairly good exit. They're fairly even through this set of corners. This is going to be another opportunity for him. He needs to go and get the slipstream before they head into the sweeping left-hander. Richie, again, shallow on the entry to the corner. This might open the door for McQueen, who's going to just show the nose. Maybe just the narrowest of margins between them. Here we go, down through the big sweeping right-hander, the double apex corner. Can McQueen maybe just mount one more charge to get back onto the podium? But it looks like Richie's just eked out that gap over McQueen there. So unfortunately, it looks like McQueen might just have to settle for P3.
Well, this is the last lap. Penne on it as we speak. It's almost the teacher and the student with Josh Ritchie out in front. Oh, but McQueen pushes too wide. That's going to hurt him. That's going to give that gap for Richie just that bit small. But he's going to have to make a really big dive on the brakes on one of these corners. It's got one lap to go as they come down here. Last corner before the front straight.
So we're probably going to miss Penne taking the checkered flag here, who's probably going to come across the line any second now. There we go, checkered flag. Penne is going to take the win here, but here's the battle, the real battle for this race. Is Scott McQueen going to be able to get the draft before the finish line? Let's see, is he going to show the nose side by side? It's going to be a photo finish. Oh, Richie just gets it.
Wiping his brow from all the sweat from that one. Very, very tense moment for all of us involved here as well. But also going to point out Ethan Moore coming in at 4th as well. A big improvement for him. Is going to be happy with that finish, but definitely wants to move up. And of course, bringing up the rear, we do have a few of the final races. Poor Robert Northway as well, coming in at 5th after a catastrophic crash. I mean, he did so well come back up to P2 after sitting at 8th place. But one mistake, and he's all the way back to 5th.
Robert Northway, it was, I think it's our fault here. Look at the bumper hanging off the car there. Michael Robinson, 8th position. He's not going to be happy with that. the next track is really, everyone's been practicing the next track. They didn't like this track, so the next track, Monza, is really going to be the one. But what fantastic racing. That had me excited.
I was on the edge of my seat, honestly. And, as much as I praise Richie too, so I'm sitting there thinking, come on, don't make me look dumb in front of the really smart guys here. But he does manage to pull out that second place, and that was very tight. And, towards you as well, I think you did in the end curse McQueen. Props to him to stay second for so long, but then ending up in third. That's got to be a little painful. But we'll get a look at the leaderboard pretty soon and see exactly how it looked overall through the results. And more importantly, how those championship points will be divvied out. Here we go. We've got exactly what the race looked like.
Yeah, Jordan Penny sitting in that first position, and he's going to be taking more crucial points, more crucial championship points. Josh Ritchie, well, it's a repeat, isn't it, really? But, down further, Scott McQueen, even more. Robert Northway, it was his to lose, and he really made that jump back up. But what do you do?
Yeah, and then, bringing up the rear as well, you've got Louis de Manila. He's actually improved in some of his results, came sixth, and like we were saying before, it's all about that improvement, climbing up that ladder as the weeks go by. Featured racer as well, Jake Parker, coming in that 7th place. He was looking for that 6th just to improve, but remember, he came in as the slowest qualifier, and so he's happy to be beating anyone at this point.
Yeah. And rounding out the leaderboard there in 8th position, Michael Robinson. Well, he's going to have to deliver some good results at Monza, and we're about to go to Monza very shortly. But before that, I guess we take a little look. Who's your pick for Monza?
Monza? Okay. Are you asking me to pick who's getting second?
Yes. Forget Penne. Who's going to be your pick?
Yeah, because everyone's going to be picking Penne, so I'm going to stick with Josh Ritchie, second in Imola. Really impressive performance. Even with his slip-up, still managed to come back. We do have Jordan Penne, our first-place position racer, standing by to see how he's feeling after that race.
How does that feel knowing you have such a big advantage over the other players in this tournament so far?
To be honest, I feel like I don't. But I'm shocked that I'm there. And apparently I missed quite a lot of action going on behind me. So, yeah.
Did you feel the pressure getting to you to keep that first place, being so far ahead of the other racers?
In the beginning, the start of this race, I felt some pressure to try and have a good lead. But after a while, it started to ease off as I noticed some stuff was going on in the background.
How do you feel going into the 4th race after your performance so far tonight?
Feeling pretty good with that result, actually, to be honest. I hope I can still do well in the next one. It's going to be pretty tight, pretty close on the next one, I think. So,
good luck for race 4.
Cool. Thanks very much.
So humble. This guy is so humble. He doesn't feel like he has such an advantage over the other races, but objectively, through his championship points, he does.
Well, clearly he knew that there was something going on behind him, though, because he actually made mention to the amazing racing that was going on. So, I'm really hoping that we get on that fast circuit, we get lots of tight battles like we just did. So, yeah, be good to see.
And as well, Jordan Penne holding the Star Insurance Specialist fastest lap of the race as well. First time anyone that isn't Robert Northway taking it. So I feel like we're actually seeing improvement out of Jordan Penne, as funny as that sounds.
Yeah, and I think that puts him on something like 76 points provisionally, which is massive for him. It's a huge advantage that he's got, especially considering that Richie is constantly finishing in P2. And it was actually good to see Richie fight back after all the dramas in the mid-race there. So we'll look forward to seeing how they go in Monza.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into Monza, and we will get there very, very shortly, everyone. However, just remember, if you're sitting at home and you want to win a copy of the game, Bandai Namco have hooked us up a PS4 copy. Make sure you get onto Twitter, tweet at Let's Play Live HQ with the hashtag ProjectCars2NZ. Tell us which was the first car that you fell in love with. But before you go anywhere, we're going to be going to a short break before we get into the next race, so make sure you stick with us through that one.
This whole eSport thing is absolutely blowing up overseas and of course right here in New Zealand.
Josmo's going to go. Oh! Whoa, slow-mo!
He goes underneath the jab with a debugger.
Alternate grand final LPL styles. His name is Saint. He's one of the best players in the entire world, and he is here in New Zealand.
It is the grand final of the NBA 2K17 Championships.
We've got some established sports stars that have taken on the virtual arena in the form of Tom Abercrombie up against hardman Albert Vite from the mighty Vodafone Warriors.
What is this e-gaming? So tell someone like me who's a complete numpty at this sort of thing.
So e-gaming refers to competitive video gaming.
So there's big money in this?
The biggest prize pool to date so far was 21 million. There's a high school league at the moment that started at the start of this year. It features around about 100 schools throughout the country.
Now it's becoming a thing that if you do dedicate a lot of time to it and take it seriously, you can get somewhere with it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Project Cars 2 New Zealand Championship, brought to you by LPL and, of course, Star Insurance Specialists. Guys, we just saw a fantastic first race on Imola. Jordan Panay coming out very, very far ahead. However, where was the real battle?
The real battle was further down the field, and I guess as far as motorsport goes and putting it in a game, I don't think you can get much better than that. There was some real good battles, and they keep changing, so it was great to see. It was a favourite of mine, definitely far better than last week, that's for sure.
Real good improvement. And Simon as well, what was the biggest thing to watch for in that one for you?
Just how much overtaking there was. I think we were sort of taken aback a little bit by just how much these guys were able to chop and change positions. We talk about GT4 cars obviously having quite a lot of downforce, but these cars obviously quite loose in the setup, and they're obviously overheating their tires as well, definitely getting up on those curbs. So it was good to see these guys changing positions a lot throughout that race.
All right, well, let's take a look at what our next track, Monza, is going to look like, what kind of weather we're going to be expecting thanks to Logitech. So, Simon, I'll let you take us through this one. Tell us about Monza.
So it's fairly clear, but it looks like we're going to be doing a bit of night racing. Our first night race here for the entire season, race 4 of the championship. It's going to be an interesting one. If you're going to race at night, you probably don't want to be racing at Monza, especially considering that these guys are going to be going at 250 kilometers into turn 1, which is a tight 90-degree right hand of the chicane. So we'll have a more in-depth look at the circuit as we progress throughout the evening. But yeah, I think that start is going to be insane.
And I think we've seen a little bit of banter as well with the headlight flashing. That might play into it a little bit actually, and have an actual effect on the race, because visibility is going to be an issue. So I'm excited to see if, especially, who's the headlight flasher, the big one? Was it Richie or
Northway?
Northway loves that headlight. After the first crash in the first race, managed to bring it back out. We'll get into the qualifying race very shortly, guys, because of course the races have 10 minutes to get their fastest lap, and that will decide the grid and get that all-important pole position, because last time we had Jordan Panay up in that pole position. What difference is it going to be in this race compared to what we saw in Imola?
Look, I think Louis maybe need to take one for the team off the start line and just boom, straight down into Penny, and that'll give us a really good race. But in all seriousness, I do see a very similar start to the last race, but I'm going to say it again, watch Robert Northway, but we're not going to know until we see this qualifying. Once we see the qualifying, we'll be able to see that order. Maybe Louis just needs to play some tactics in the qualifying with Penny, so that way we see a really good tight race and a closer championship brought back in, potentially.
Yeah, and also some of the, I'm going to bring it down the table a little bit too. Michael Robinson he was dead last in the qualifying round. He was dead last in Imola. How is he going to go in this one? It's Monza, so it's a little bit better, but let's be honest, it's better for everyone.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting circuit, because where you qualify physically on the track is actually quite important. As we see Robert Northway here in qualifying, he's actually all on his own. No one's in front of him. So it's a circuit where you actually benefit from being in traffic for just a little bit, because you can really utilize the stream of the car in front of you, which will gain you maybe a few tenths up and down the straight. So let's have a look at Robert Northway, currently sitting down the order, hasn't actually set a time. We've still got plenty of time left in this session. Currently, Moore sits atop the order, 1 second, well, nearly 2 seconds clear of the nearest driver, which is McQueen. So maybe we haven't seen the first times really being registered here. Expect, I suppose, maybe that time to drop down to the 1:55 marker as we see a big shoot of flames come out the back of that car, which is quite fascinating to see.
And Jake Parker, one of our featured racers as well. We saw him at Hampton Downs, did pretty well there. He's coming in, qualifying currently at 5th, but remember, there's still quite a bit of time to go, so he's got a few more opportunities to get a little bit further up that grid.
How good does the scene look?
It's interesting. This is the first time these guys have actually raced at night as well. So, you know, a bit of a new environment for them. And those curbs, they've got massive yellow markers. So you've jumped the curb. It's a bit different to the last race where there's these massive markers on top of the curb. So you jump it, it really upsets your car on this track.
One thing that these guys have got to be careful of too is when they use those headlights. Because this is a simulation, it simulates a lot of things, and that does obviously include light. When these guys are flashing their headlights and looking in the rearview mirror, all they're going to see is white. They're not going to be able to see the guy sending it down the inside or the outside at the corner. So it's going to be interesting. We might see a little bit of carnage once it comes to the races. We'll see Jake Parker maybe taking just a little bit too much curb through the first of the chicanes there as he comes through this big sweeping right-hander. Another really good opportunity during the race to hopefully get a good run out and to go side by side under the bridge and maybe make a pass.
Jake Parker actually shot up to 3rd place in the qualifying here, and that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to move on to Josh Ritchie, our other featured racer for the night, and he's sitting up at 2nd. So both the featured racers doing pretty well tonight. Josh Ritchie especially from his performance, and you can see there on the screen, throwing his hands up. He knows he made a mistake. Doesn't look so much like he did to us.
He punishes himself, and that's the thing that he struggles with, I guess. Well, not struggles with, but he knows that he's got to let it go straight away, get his head straight back in the game. And if you watch him, he'll probably punish himself on every second corner, but he's definitely calculated, and he just gets himself back in the game. It's the times when he doesn't, and we saw it last race. He had one of 2 options, and he chucked it away, and he got straight back in there, and he did really, really well. So, you know, once we see where Pena is down in 5th position at the moment, big slide into that corner, we'll see him bank a lap score very shortly, a lap time, and we'll see where he jumps to. But right now, it's Josh Ritchie, all about Josh Ritchie.
Northway taking that 2nd place away from Josh Ritchie. However, I want to point out Ethan Moore sitting up there at 1st, really impressing everyone so far. So good props to him. He may be even sitting in that pole position if no one else can overtake him. And just wait for the animated Josh throwing his hands up.
Yeah, it just looks like Josh maybe just got a little bit too loose on the entry of that corner. So we'll see if he sets an all right time as he comes past across the line. Now he's done a 1:58 flat that time by, so doesn't improve on that time. And Ethan Moore, surprising to actually see him so far up the order. He was obviously consistent in that first race, but got caught up in some of those early race battles, and that obviously dropped him back down the order. And no surprises there. Jordan Pena, he's gone to P2, just 2 tenths, I should say, behind Ethan Moore for P2.
Now, Simon, for those viewing at home, watching this live, what are some of the corners that are a real standout throughout this track? And what are some of the things that the drivers are really going to be having to focus on?
I don't think there is a single corner on this circuit which is a standout, because they are all just so tough. Even coming under the bridge here, you got to get your braking markers right. Hit that apex. Don't take the big sausage curb on the right or the left, because that'll send you into the sky. Now this corner here, again, is a really tough one. You're going to be on the brakes, but you're not going to hit that apex too early. Just keep on waiting, easing it in, and then hit the apex really late so you can get a good exit out of that final corner. Just want to hit the apex early, about midway through the corner there, and carry a lot of speed through it. Now the straight is really important to get a tow from the car in front of you, and then head into the Ascari chicane. The Ascari chicane, one of the fastest corners on the circuit. A quick left, a quick right, and then a quick left again, and want you to use as much road as possible on the exit of the corner. That sets you up nicely, as we see through the Ascari chicane now, sets you up nicely for the Parabolica. And the Parabolica can make or break your lap, as we see one of the other drivers just up ahead going super wide, maybe using a little bit more road than I anticipated. Now here we go. This is the long straight leading up to Parabolica. Parabolica is a really tricky corner. There used to actually be gravel just on the edge of the corner, but some recent redevelopments mean that there's quite a lot of tarmac there now. So less of a challenge. It's quite a lot forgiving, I guess, now, and you can carry a lot more confidence into that corner, knowing that you're probably not going to bin it into the sand. So let's have a look. Ethan Moore, is he going to improve this time by a 157.202, his best marker?
Well,
not quicker.
Won't improve it, but we'll still be sitting up there looking to get into pole position as although the race is slowing down a little bit, it looks like it was their last laps. And yeah, Ethan Moore going to be sitting in pole position, I think, for the first time ever. We've usually only seen Robert Northway and Jordan Penne sitting in that position. So really, really impressive for Ethan Moore to make it up there.
I think a cool thing for here is Monza has a huge history, doesn't it? It's the home in Italy, the Ferrari fans. You saw Michael Schumacher announce his retirement there many moons ago. And the passion in those crowds there is it's a cool track. So a lot of people would know this track at home, so they'll be able to follow it. But yeah, really cool to see someone new on the pole position.
Might even see someone you interviewed after they win the race, but who knows, because it's all about that big start as well, Simon, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is probably the most crucial bit. We'll see those times come up in a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys were sandbagging, because it is a circuit where you probably don't want to be too aggressive into turn one. Michael Robinson and Louis De Manila down in P7 and P8, P6 and P5, Josh Ritchie and Jake Parker respectively. Josh Ritchie down in P6, I guess a little bit of surprise, but maybe that's that sandbagging that I was talking about. Robert Northway P4 and Scott McQueen in P3, and then that front row, Ethan Moore and Jordan Penne. Penne, unsurprisingly, up the front there, perhaps more so. But turn one, turn two, it's going to be chaos, surely. They're going to be full throttle into turn one, nearing 250 kilometers, hard on the brakes. Surely there's going to be someone who makes a mistake. It's too narrow.
We've seen a lot of people make mistakes, but importantly, recover from them. And that's going to be something that every racer has to be prepared for. Otherwise, like you said, they're never going to be able to bring it back. And we've seen a lot of really good recoveries, particularly in Imola today. So I'm really excited to see if someone does have a bit of a catastrophic crash on that first corner. I want to see how well they can recover. That's the most important thing.
I think you'd see those the lower end of the table. They probably won't be able to recover as good as someone like Robert Northway or those top ends. So, you know, I'd like to see someone like Robert Northway have a crash and come out and take it on the pole. You know, as you said earlier, you did see, I guess, actually, it's a really good point, Penne. Let's see Penne come off and let's see how well he recovers, because, you know, that is key. Is he's really good out front. But what's he like in battles? What's he like blocking? What's he like really getting out through the pack? So those are going to be some good ones to watch too.
In the traffic with the rest of the peasants. And, well, it feels a little harsh, but if you could pick any of those peasants, I mean, who is going to be the one to commit regicide and take down the king that is Jordan Penne?
Well, you know, the faster for Pinot. Let's get him, you know. It's got to take one for the team. I keep saying it, Louis. So, you know, they're going to watch the replay tomorrow and curse us. So, you know, I think we're going to go to the race now, Matt.
Yeah, of course. Let's get right into it because it's what we're all waiting for. We've already seen one race so far. Now, let's get on to Monza.
So here we go, another 14 laps. Look, Moore's already flashing the lights off the start. Let's see who can get a good start. Penne has been notoriously quick off the line. Here we go. Penne makes a really good start once again from P2. And he's going to have the inside line into turn one. But let's watch. Hopefully not too much chaos into the first couple of corners. They're going to go 2 by 2 into turn one. McQueen shows his nose. Is he going to send it down the inside of Penne? Maybe give Penne a run for his money. 3 wide. There's a bit of contact. Moore is hopefully going to hold on to that position. There's more drama behind. Moore has done a really good job. Oh, Moore bumping. McQueen goes off into the grass. And it looks like Northway's going to go right around the outside and maybe take the lead.
And Richie's taken a lot of punishment as well, sitting in 8th position.
Oh, it's a big crash! Northway's gone!
Oh, we're going to get a replay of that, ladies and gentlemen. Racing at its best here, live from Sky Tower. Penne, he's at the front.
Are we really seeing it again?
We're seeing it. And Manila is in 3rd. Richie, this is just astounding.
I'm more surprised that Louis is in 3rd place after that crash. I mean, Louis somehow managed to come out of there unscathed, and now we're going to see him truly tested. How well can he hold?
Here we go.
That's us.
Here we go. We come up for the replay here, ladies and gentlemen. No, we're back live on the race. We will get a replay on that once the truck gets there, or the production gets it up for us. I'm just astounded. That was epic.
That was an insane start. So here we go. Here's the replay. It looks like Moore maybe just gets squeezed by Northway. Northway causing his own demise, and as Justin Marshall once said, Boomfa, gone. That was just a huge crash. And look, now Northway, he's actually only dropped to P5.
Well, because there were like 6 races in that whole crash. So, I mean, someone has to come out last in that. So, luckily, Robert Northway managing to come out a little bit further ahead.
We're going to remember, we're still on lap 1 right now. So we've seen more action than probably most of the races in lap 1. So, and they're not really dispersed on the racetrack. So we've got no lights from one car. So I wonder how that will be playing out. McQueen, eyes on McQueen right now as they come down the front straight. Penne, 2.07.427 on the front straight. But like I said, there's not huge gaps here. It could be anyone's game. We really want Penne to make a little mistake and tighten up that. Penny's really getting a mark on his back right now because he's constantly leading. So he's the one to beat as we go on board with Penne, and you can see him there, cool, calm and collected as they put the foot down.
Hopefully we can get another look at that replay, because I'll be interested to see perhaps maybe from some different views just where everyone was, because it looked like Northway was stuck around the outside and maybe just squeezing more a little bit too much. But I guess we shouldn't really be surprised that Penne is in the lead now. But I was surprised to see that crash actually take place at that part of the circuit, because it's traditionally a place where you wouldn't have a big shunt like that.
So something real interesting that I didn't even consider before this race. Robert Northway's lights look to have been completely cut out. And sure, damage is aesthetic only, but your lights, if you can't use them at a night race, how much does that affect your ability to optimally take this race?
Well, you can't see for a start.
That's a great point there, Simon.
So Northway is
see a little bit.
Well, it's actually surprising because Northway is actually up to P3. So Northway's done a fantastic job to get up the order there. So maybe a mistake by one of the other drivers down the order, and Northway's just capitalised on it. He's got no rear wing. Generally, when you don't have a rear wing, you're going to lose a lot of downforce and a lot of drag. So
no lights either on this one. So it's great to see. Here we go, and one of the darker points of the second. There's a little battle going on behind them too, I think, right there. But what a great way. First position, Penne. Second position, Richie, Northway. And then in fourth position, you see it there, the flashing going on just a further a bit back down the track as these cars look very banged up.
This is the most exciting race we've had.
Here we go. We've got McQueen. We've got Parker.
Ethan Moore, that pole position start as well. Clearly not working out too well for him. Sitting in P6, currently behind this three-way battle between, like you said, McQueen and Parker.
So it looks like McQueen's maybe going to send it down the inside of Robinson, and Robinson's going to be a sitting duck heading into the first of the chicanes here. Moore, he's just going to back out of it as Robinson actually backs it into the backside of McQueen. Moore's going to try around the outside, gets the up and under. Is he going to get the crisscross done? Maybe send it around the outside of turn 3 here. Can he do it?
I think really importantly as well, Richie is pretty far ahead. I mean, still behind Penne, but he doesn't have to worry at all about a lot of this traffic. But Ethan Moore currently does.
So here we go. It looks like Ethan Moore is going to try and send it down the inside of McQueen and Robinson. Robinson's going to do it instead on McQueen. Some really good close-fought racing here. Really clean considering the start that we had to this race. So a good start here. Oh, looks like McQueen's going to try and send it down the inside. Another tricky spot to make that pass. They're going to go side by side into this fast right-hander. Maybe McQueen's just going to have to drop back in and hopefully get that draft down the long straight as they lead up to the Ascari chicane. So here we go, on board with Ethan Moore. McQueen just ahead. Robinson in P4. Northway well ahead in P3 now. So look, that draft is actually working really well. A bit of bump drafting perhaps going on, and that's opened the door for Ethan Moore, who might just take 2 positions here.
Well done on Ethan Moore there. He's making it back. Bumper flying off, damage on. No lights either.
And there goes Robinson, just skates through the gravel trap there as he got hung out to dry by McQueen in P5 now. So Robinson drops from P4 to P6 in the space of 2 corners.
Remember, this is Michael Robinson, 8th place in Imola. Managed just to get through the catastrophe at the start of the race, but like you said, dropping 2 places in the space of a few seconds, pretty painful. Featured racer Jake Parker, though, coming up pretty hard as well. Involved in that overtake too, but I mean, look, he's trying to get just past the fastest Filipino.
He's flashing those lights again, isn't he?
Louis as well, yeah. Was slower than Jake Parker in Hampton Downs, so I mean, if there's anything to go by there, We should see Jake Parker overtaking him very shortly.
There we go. Gets the slipstream. He's going to punch it down the inside. Hard on the brakes. He'll block him out. Louis gives a little bit of a rub. That'll be Louis into 8th position now. It's obviously going to be mistakes for Louis to get past that. Unfortunately for him, he just hasn't been as strong as I'd like to see. You know, he's got great racing history, and he's made a really big effort in motorsport outside of this. He's just now going to transition that into it. But he's a very busy student, and he hasn't had a lot of seat time, and that's a really important thing I pointed out earlier, is you've got to get seat time. If he's not putting in the seat time, why are you doing it? Put the seat time in.
I mean, Louis was the last racer to arrive here simply because he was at uni. He was still studying, still working hard, and clearly shows he's dedicated to the game, sure, but doesn't have the time like the other racers.
So we've still got that battle in 3rd, 4th and 5th. There's some proximity there in between 3rd and 4th by the look of it. And that's Moore and Northway.
So
there we go.
McQueen.
Oh no, sorry, it's not. It's 4th and 5th.
So McQueen is going to hopefully go side by side with Moore here into the Ascara chicane. Is he going to send it down the inside? Who's going to be better on the braking? The last of the late breakers, it looks like Steve McQueen maybe got side by side. Is Moore going to give him a little bit of a shunt? Let's see, it looks like McQueen, he's got the move done. He's going to move up into P4. So keep an eye on Moore behind though. He might try and get that slipstream as they head down into the big sweeping right-hander at the end of this lap.
And of course, still Jordan Penne, Josh Ritchie, still sitting comfortably ahead, but importantly as well, you also have Robert Northway finally up in one of those podium finish positions. But the important question for us has always been, can he hold it?
Yeah, consistency is key for Robert Northway at the moment. You know, he's got himself back up there, but then he chucks it away. So it'll be really interesting. 157s for Penne, 158 for Ritchie. So they've got a bit of a gap on the boys now, but it's still quite close racing here. But a bit of a mistake here from Ritchie, and he slowed himself down there through that chicane, and it's made Robert Northway get a bit of a jump on him. So right now it's Robert Northway's positions to lose. Let's see if
how many times have we said that?
Yes, exactly.
How many times have we said it? He can hold it for sure, and he's coming up on Ritchie actually pretty fast. May be able to overtake him if he just keeps the effort up. I mean, Robert Northway, not the only racer to have made mistakes. We've seen it from Ritchie as well, and that could be Robert Northway's moment to pounce on. Remember Robert Northway, one of the fastest times in many tracks globally in the Ginetta G55 GT4 that all the racers will be driving today.
Now those split timings right now, they are very close in between 1st, 2nd and 3rd, but a bit of a gap there in 1st to 4th where Moore is at the moment. So really need to close that gap up in 1st, 2nd and 3rd, 0.4, 0.6. And again, all about Penne.
It is all about Penne, but the most interesting part for me right now is this little battle we've got going on here. Scott McQueen trying to overtake Ethan Moore. We've seen him do it before. Surely he can do it again. And of course, Ethan Moore, one of the racers that wants to prove himself right now. Scott McQueen, he's already got a podium finish on some of the races. So Ethan Moore wants to get up there with the big boys as well. So you better believe he's working hard to stay ahead of Scott McQueen right now.
150 k's an hour through that last corner as they come down the front straight, 220. Now, Simon, these cars are obviously not as fast as some of the fastest cars that go down this front straight. What speeds are some of these fast Formula 1 cars doing down here?
I believe the record is about 340 kilometres. And that's fairly recent too.
Oh, sideways there. Moore just pitching it sideways, but manages to regain it. So 340. Do you know the lap record off the top of your head?
It's about a 120, 130 something, I believe.
All right, our boys need to step their game up.
I know that these guys definitely aren't as quick as what the Formula 1 cars are setting. The circuit obviously quite fast and good for Formula cars because of things like DRS, the drag reduction system. It's basically straight line and then a hard chicane, then straight line and hard chicane. So it's a really good battle. We're obviously watching here with Scott McQueen.
Ooh,
and this is
look.
the really interesting corner, Lesmo 1 into Lesmo 2. If you get a really good exit and entry from these two corners, you're going to set yourself up nicely for this long straight here. And Scott McQueen and Ethan Moore there were
Oh,
quite
he's
matched.
done
Looks
it!
like Moore's going to go round. Oh, is he going to take McQueen out too? Moore just loses it all on his own. He got onto the grass and he's throwing away that position. He's going to go from first to last. So after starting from pole position, Ethan Moore has just thrown that all away. He was in a really good position for this race. Started from the pole position, dropped down the order after that lap 1 crash, and now he's just thrown it all away. Let's watch the replay again. Yeah, he just stayed on the grass. Man, McQueen was lucky not to get taken out in that altercation too.
Yeah, McQueen actually did not take nearly as much punishment from that as he could have. So he will sit there still in P4. Coming up behind Richie. Also important to note, during that little kerfuffle, we had Richie be overtaken by Robert Northway, still now sitting in P2.
Yeah, unfortunately we missed that, but now we're watching Jake Parker and
Michael
Robinson. So side by side in the matching liveried cars, they're going to go down the straight, get that slipstream. Jake Parker sitting just ahead. Robinson flashing his headlights in behind. Let's see, as they're going to head into the chicane, is Robinson going to be daring enough to send it down the inside? Just behind them, it looks like Louis Di Manila has also flashing headlights, maybe a bit of a distraction. And it looks like Robinson's actually taken a little bit of a shortcut there, perhaps.
Now, if I was a Motorsport New Zealand steward sitting up in the voice of God, it'd be a drive-through penalty if you cut a corner. But not in this game. You will get away with some of these little tricks, so to speak.
So it looks like Richie might have made a mistake on that last lap because he set a 2-minute 1:4.25 versus Northway on a 1:57.657. So about 4 seconds difference between those two on the last lap. So maybe just a mistake by Richie under pressure by Northway. Unfortunately, we missed that, but hopefully we'll see that battle evaluate soon as we're watching Jake Parker on board through Lesmo 1, and he's going to exit into Lesmo 2 in a moment. So hopefully we'll see a few more battles as the clock winds down here at Sky City.
Just past the halfway mark now on the race. Interesting little black spots on this game as well. But Simon, obviously we went to Laguna, we went to Willow, we've done the first race, and we're seeing a lot closer racing on these fast circuits. Now, is that because they're fast circuits and they're suited to this, or is it because the drivers are beating themselves in and getting more skill?
I think there are a lot of variables that you can take into consideration. Obviously, these guys are getting a lot more confident as they're going through the races. They're sort of learning sort of the limits of the car and the tyre, knowing how good some of these other guys are, can obviously assess, you know, someone like Richie and Northway, they both know how they drive now and can obviously race safely.
Yeah.
Far from that lap 1 crash, obviously. Yeah. But I guess a circuit like this allows for the aerodynamics on these cars to be utilised. You know, these guys can slipstream, there's more opportunities for passing. Heavy braking zones are conducive for good passing opportunities. So, yeah, I guess this circuit alone is pretty good for Nimmler as well, being a fairly fast and challenging circuit too. Opens it up. I guess somewhere like Laguna and Willow Springs is perhaps a little bit tougher on these guys.
I can just say, I just saw Josh Ritchie. I mean, we've seen him screen watch his neighbours a little bit before. This time he looked over and gave him kind of a bit of a shrug, actually, as if he was not very impressed by whatever they were pulling off. So
maybe conceding defeat, P3. Is he just going to hold that?
Could be indeed. I mean, he could be looking at Penne even, thinking, this guy's miles ahead. I'm never going to catch this guy. Oh, well, let's go for P2.
Interesting, actually, watching him at the moment. He's a lot less aggressive than what he was in practice and qualifying. He was working the wheel hard in practice and really attacking some of those curves. And I think you're sort of starting to see perhaps Richie is taking perhaps a more conservative approach to these corners. You can definitely see he's a lot less animated at the moment, perhaps a little bit more relaxed, maybe saying, you know, P3, that's all I can get.
Well, some words coming out of his mouth there. I'm not going to look like what I'm going to repeat there, but yeah, I guess he's not happy himself. But the big thing here is you're in a bit of a nothing zone. It's all on you at the moment because you've got a big gap between it, so it's about driving consistent to catch up to Northway. And if he doesn't do that, or to Penny, then you're just really on your own and you're racing yourself right now.
Still have McQueen behind you as well, and you can't just count him out. McQueen definitely has the ability to catch up, especially if Josh Ritchie makes any of those big mistakes that he's made before. So, like you said, maybe the conservative style is just that he doesn't want to have that happen and have McQueen come in and steal that P3 away from him.
He's very smooth at the moment, which is interesting to see. Obviously keeping an eye on perhaps some of the other players there, just in the left corner of the screen here. And let's see as he crosses the line. Yeah, 158, so he's fairly consistent. Penne maybe a tenth or two ahead of these guys. Northway and Pene are trading fairly even lap times at the moment, but Northway just stable there, 5 seconds adrift.
It's so
P2.
quiet when you cut to Jordan Pene as well. There's no one else there, just you, the wheel, and the track. And of course, the Star Insurance Specialist fastest lap of the race, which of course, Jordan Pene is still holding.
Man, you wouldn't want to be a sponsor because he's hardly getting any TV time.
That's the big thing in racing, isn't it? If you're not winning, you should be crashing or just making some huge efforts with other cars, because that's what the cameras focus on. They don't focus on this guy leading out in the race, because unless you're having a really good battle, the cameras are where the battles are.
Yeah, I really hope you guys like his face, because I'm pretty sure we're going to see him in the interview again, unless, I mean, I say this every time, but it's just, unless he makes a massive, massive mistake, no one's overtaking this guy. He's just proven consistently, especially tonight, taking out the fastest laps, that if he doesn't mess up, you're never going to beat him.
Yeah, well, that's the key. He's very consistent. He's the, I guess, in our world and drifting, he's the Gaz Wider of motorsport racing. Gaz Wider doesn't mess up. He's the 4-time New Zealand champion. Well, right now we're about to have a 4-time winner right here with Jordan Pene. We're only 9 laps in though, but the only man that I guess could take him is that world champion, which is in the back of the screen there. As you see Richie coming behind him, he's got no lights, so I guess the other thing is Pene won't even know he's there potentially.
Stealth approach.
Yeah, stealth coming in, and that would be Robert Northway. So, you know, he is a fast driver, so fingers crossed, but his car is falling apart at the same time. No rear, no bonnet, no
But
front.
that's just a testament to Robert Northway and his ability to just crawl back up that ladder, because
win it or bin it.
I mean,
Bit of
I'm
weight
sure-
saving too on the way.
I'm sure if we ever see a replay of that ever again in my life, that crash at the start was just terrible for Robert Northway, all the way in 8th. And now he's back up in 2nd place. His car looks like a mess, but he still managed to get all the way up here.
If you look at the map on your right-hand side of your screen at home, you can see Pene up there coming through the chicane, followed by Northway, followed by Richie. But there's a little bit of a battle, by the looks of it, versus Moore and Parker down the back end there, but pretty consistent. There's no massive gaps besides the front of the field going on right now. Big speeds coming through this corner, like this 200k corner.
Yeah,
coming into
super
it.
fast.
Ridiculous.
I remember not all that long ago in Formula One, Fernando Alonso and Mark Webber going side by side and pushing each other onto the grass, and we saw something similar. Perhaps the consequences a little bit more severe here this afternoon.
Yeah, as safe as it might be, sitting in a simulation instead of the actual thing, that just means you can push it harder. And that means other people are going to push it harder, and you could be the victim of that result. We've got Jake Parker, again, one of our featured racers of the night, still in that battle to not get in that 8th place. And remember, he did come in as the slowest qualifier, so he is looking to just tell everyone at home, maybe I'm not the slowest. Maybe I can compete with the big guys, but right now, he's just in that battle to take over Moore, who, let's not forget, was in pole position at the start of this race.
Now, question for you, Matt. If someone's got this game, can they join in with other gamers and actually, you know, for a newbie like myself in gaming, can they jump on and actually play other people around the world the same game in a real race?
Absolutely. Look, if me and you went home to our respective homes and we said, hey, let's have a race, we could do that. If I called up my mate in America, we could have a race.
Yeah.
Anyone in the world, you can join. As long as you can join the same server, then you can have the same race. So that's the magic of the game, is that you can make friends around the world racing, but you can also compete against the best. Like we were saying before, with downloading a Ghost replay, you could essentially find that guy who's got that fastest lap and say, let's have a real race.
Yeah.
Like, a Ghost is one thing. I want to race the real thing.
So I wonder how many of these drivers right now have been practicing by themselves, or actually getting in and actually practicing with racers. Because what we're seeing is someone like Northway, really fast, but it's like he hasn't practiced racing. So it's almost like these. So it's good to know that you can actually jump in and have a lot of practice races.
Yeah, I mean, and that's quite common in a lot of esports, is that you will just jump into random matches and, oh, well, look at that punishment there. I think we want to talk about that one. Ethan Moore.
He's just having a horror evening after starting from pole position. Ethan Moore, he's gone from first to fourth to first to last, and he's
He won't be happy.
Just absolutely painful there.
Yeah, we'll be wanting more at the next round, no doubt. But yeah, really bad performance here tonight. But yeah, I think he'll take away some positives, obviously knowing that he's got enough pace to match the front runners. But Yeah, not the result on paper that you'd be wanting.
Oh, he's definitely got the pace. You don't forget that at Willow he came third, and he came sixth in a title where his actual sim broke down, so we restarted the race in Laguna. So that stuff was mojo a bit in his words. So I think he's one of those ones where he doesn't get really in the headspace. He's out. That's it. He needs to check back in. But one of our favourites here.
We love bringing him
fun.
up. Filipinos fastest, flashing the headlights there. Louis D. Manila, for once, actually not coming up in an 8th spot.
No.
Has actually made it up to P6, which is, it's still quite far behind the likes of Jordan Penne and Josh Ritchie, but he is still improving, and I think that's the most important thing. Remember, after tonight, we still have another 12 tracks to go through around the world, so Louis has all the opportunity in the world. If he puts the time in, he's not that far behind.
So 12 tracks to go, and that's important. Each one has 25 points, correct? So there's a lot to go in this championship yet. And like I say, the people that go home and they practice those tracks and they really put in the effort, they're going to be the ones with that advantage. And clearly there's one man who we're on board with right now that's been putting it in, and he's 0.5 of a second over Robert Northway. So he's out, clean air. Game's his, the championship's his to lose. So it's going to be Robert Northway. What Robert Northway needs to do is he needs to go home, get in some races and get consistent. And he's going to be a real threat to Penne alongside with Ritchie.
Something different as well as we're coming into the final few laps of the race is that back to the advantage of playing it in a simulation on the game itself is that a lot of these races seem like they're just practicing hot laps. Jordan Penne seems like he's actually practicing races, going in and racing against other players, which you can do. You can jump in and not too painful, but the fact is the game will find opponents for you. You can say, hey, look, I want to go into a race with 7 other races, and it'll say, here's a race, we found you 7 other people, let's go for a race. And so you can actually practice what a real race like tonight would be like, rather than just, hey, look, how fast can I get my lap time, and then can I do it 14 times?
Yeah, that
big difference.
That little off that Penne had there is one of the things that you've got to be careful of when you're out in front and in so much clear air, because you can get complacent. You can start perhaps just losing your marks and maybe just taking that corner a little bit wider as we see him come through the final corner here. He takes quite a wide line. He doesn't apex early. He sort of just uses the camber of the corner to get a decent exit here. So Jordan Penne, 4 seconds out in front of Northway. Northway just clawed a little bit of time back on Penne based on that little bit of an error that we saw out of Lesmo 2.
Well, we're on the lap 13 of 14. Jordan Penne, there's not huge gaps, but it is enough for him. And you did right there, Simon. One little mistake like that, and that's it. Loss of concentration. But I really want him to tell us how many hours he's spent on these tracks, and all of these drivers, when we go in there and we interview them, they play it down. Oh, we're only doing an hour or two, maybe a couple of times. Either they're very naturally talented or they're all telling us fibs.
Which is surprising, because as a game, you don't have to go out, book a track, book Monza specifically, and get some time on it. A lot of resources, you're wasting fuel, or not wasting, but you're using a lot of fuel, a lot of repair time. There's a lot that goes into the actual real-world motorsport. On the simulation, you can literally sit down and as much time as you can stay awake for, you could practice for that long. Don't recommend maxing that out, by the way. Don't go and do any 14-hour sessions or anything ridiculous, but the opportunity is there to practice as much as you want.
Now, if someone wants to get into this, they're sitting at home right now and they're like, dude, I want to race. Obviously, you've got to buy the game.
Or you could win it by tweeting at Let's Play Live HQ with the hashtag ProjectCast2NZ.
There you go. Or you could win it, guys. So there you go. Check out the LPL Facebook page, correct? And you can watch replays on there too?
Yep, you can find all the replays up there. The highlights always come out on the Facebook page, our YouTube page as well. Just give us a search, Let's Play Live or Let's Play Live HQ, and you'll find us Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for all the action, as well as Twitch TV for some of the other games that we do as well.
And you guys do a lot of games. There's not just, obviously, Project Cars. There's a lot of games that people can get into. Hey, if Project Cars isn't your cup of tea, you do Tekken.
Yeah, Tekken, Dragon Ball Fighters, two games from the fighting genre, one of my favorites to watch. We've also done Counter-Strike Global Offensive, was one of the latest ones. Really fantastic match. We had a great grand final as well with the players here. So there's plenty of games to get into. For now, it's going to be the racing genre, of course, these racing sims. Project Cars 2, one of the latest and best ones as well. And we're starting to see, I've got to say, an empire being built by Jordan Penne, but Josh Ritchie is one of the hardest workers I've seen, and he will be working to overtake him.
He's going to rock it next week, and he's going to be sponsored by an energy drink. He's going to have the hat, and he's going to, have the chauffeurs, and all of a sudden he's going to have an athlete page next week because he's just leading it.
And no one's going to see him because he's going to be freaking 13 seconds out in front.
We might bin it just for one of the rounds just to get it there. So, hey, besides the game, you've got to obviously have some sort of steering wheel. So if you want to get into it at home, you've got to buy the steering wheel. So what's it going to cost you to go racing at home?
It is a fairly sizable investment. You do have to throw at least a few $100s into it to get the proper simulating setup as well. And if you want to race professionally, you pretty much do need that. Although I do know a select few racers that do play on the controller. We had one qualify last year. Yep. Simon Bishop, shout out to him. I know he's definitely watching.
Looks like Northway's gone for a
Northway
little bit of a
just chucked it
trip
away
through
into the wall there. So that's the fatigue, the last lap. He's just got to hold on to it with what's left of that car to push it over the finish line. So we're on the last lap, ladies and gentlemen, here live from Sky City for the LPL Star Insurance Specialist. This is it. It's the final lap. It is Jordan Penny here at Monza. Next week, we go to 2 brand new tracks. If you guys want to get into it, get down and get yourself Project Cars. Buy yourself a steering wheel. It is cheaper than obviously buying yourself a race car. If you want to watch a bit, Logitech steering wheel, by new, because they are the awesome sponsors that are supporting us with this little series we've got going on here. There's 12 races to go. We're going to be live here every Tuesday night, the same time, the same place. Jordan Penny flashing the lights. It's all him here for Monza, taking it out. First position and the all-important championship points, 25 points, your championship leader in first position with a 1.58.501.
And he'll be into the triple digits as well with over 100 points. Now bringing up second place, Robert Northway, despite having a bit of a fail, will still manage to bring it in and earn those championship points. Josh Ritchie coming in third. A good finish, but I know he won't be happy with that.
Yeah, Ritchie. He wanted second, he wanted consistency, but it's the championship points. He'll go away tonight and he'll realise, look, he's right up there in that title fight. $10,000 prize pool on the line, so he'll be happy with that.
Of course, Ethan Moore there with a bit of his car just hanging off the front there. This guy here, Jake Parker, a featured racer, only one headlight as well. Very, very beat up car, but still coming in here at 8th position as well to pick up no championship points. So very, very, very fun race there coming out. Jordan Penne still coming out in first place. But I've got to say, in the latest laps, that was the shortest lead he had. But it was still 4 seconds or something, which is still ridiculous.
Yeah, I think next week's going to be really interesting. You're going back to 20 laps on that one, so it was 14 laps and 14 laps, so they were longer, faster sections. And this track really lent, especially the first track, really lent to close proximity racing, with the fast speeds and the heavy braking. So, Jordan Penny's proved that he's good at short and he's good at, the fast track. So next week, let's see what happens there.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the results as well, see who's going to take away the most championship points there. Of course, we know it's going to be Jordan Penne taking away the 25 points. I believe, unless anyone overtook him, he'll take away the fastest lap as well. Star Insurance Specialist. Robert Northway and Josh Ritchie taking in second and third. Scott McQueen, though, 4th place.
Yeah, it looks like maybe Robert Northway got the fastest lap there, 1:57.343, just eclipsing that of Jordan Penny in P1. So, yeah, I guess a really good top 3, Jordan Penny, Robert Northway, and Josh Ritchie.
But like I said before, that does mean Jordan Penne into the triple digits without picking up the Star Insurance fastest lap of the race there. It's only going to be 101 points.
Only.
Yeah.
But still very impressive. He was looking for that 102, but unfortunately overtaken by Robert Northway there. So still, Robert Northway, 3 out of 4 fastest laps of the race. So again, still proving his global power there, and the fact that he is one of the fastest hot lap racers in the world, and that was how you qualify. But again, we're going back to the fact that it's not just a hot lap anymore.
Yeah, I think once he gets that groove in with racing, and it was going to be interesting, the halfway point. We are really early in this championship fight, so halfway point, whether it's Penny or not, we'll see. But the halfway point's really going to, I guess, spell out who's going to be the leader in these championship points.
All right, we do have the winner of the race standing by. I hope you like this guy's face because you're going to see it one more time. Jordan Penne. Let's see how he is feeling after that win.
First of all, congratulations. How did you manage to avoid that crash at the beginning and still end up coming first for the 4th time in a row?
That was extremely hairy, and I don't know who it was that dive bombed down the inside, but man, I was like, this is really sketchy, and I'm just going to take it easy, be about my wits. And I saw a couple of guys, I saw what was going to happen. I saw the guy up in front of me, the two guys in front, the guy on the left was merging to the right. I don't think he knew the guy was there, and I knew what was going to happen, so I moved left, and boom, all over, and wow, I'm just in the lead again. So, yeah, what can I say?
Without a doubt, it was an exciting race. Did you get excited, or were you focused the whole time?
It was pretty exciting at the start. And I could see, was it Robert Northway? Yeah, he passed Josh behind me, and I saw him catching up. And so I was like, oh, I better probably keep focused. So yeah, probably keep focused.
4 wins out of 4 races. How does that feel? Tell us.
Feels pretty amazing. I feel like it's really a gift, really, because I shouldn't be winning. But yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
Well done.
Cheers.
Still, humble words as always. I mean, that was a hairy start to that race. I don't know. I still don't know how he got out of that one. I don't think he really told us.
No, it was just wild. It was properly wild. That's the only way to describe that. I think, seeing guys going 3 wide through those corners, I thought they were going to do it straight at turn 1 in that 90-degree right-hander, but they waited until the big sweeper to really have a big go. So it looks like we might be having a look at the wee replay here. So let's have a look in depth. Yeah, it just looks like Northway just squeezed more, and that actually sent more into a big spin, sent guys like Jake Parker and Scott McQueen out wide. So, yeah, not ideal, not ideal.
Well, ideal if you're Jordan Penne.
Oh, of course.
does keep him ahead. And we'll also talk about the Star Insurance Specialist fastest lap of the race. Like we were saying, it was overtaken in the later laps by Robert Northway, coming in with a 1:57.343. Very, very respectable in the Ginetta G55 GT4. So he'll take away that 1 championship point. And that will matter a little bit later on. Of course, like you said, we'll have to wait until we're about halfway through to see how much it's going to matter. But still, very impressive to be the hot lap champion, basically. But guys, next week, we're going to be going to the UK. Tell us about the tracks there.
Well, so we go to the UK, and Simon can tell you about the tracks, but we also see something we haven't seen yet, which is rain and thunderstorms. So, we throw something else in the mix as we go through the championship. Little things get thrown in there to really test the drivers as well. And Simon, UK tracks, what sort of are we in for next week?
We're kind of going back to where we started, actually. These guys are going to be racing on the qualifying circuit. They're going to go to Brands Hatch Indy, which is an interesting circuit. It's basically just a bit of a paperclip, really. Big sweeping fast corners and a couple of hairpins which match them all up. And then for the second race, we go to Alton Park. 20 laps of each, both really fast and flowing circuits. So, yeah, it should be an interesting weekend. I think we will see perhaps some of those really good qualifiers performing well.
Yes, definitely, for sure. Now, let's take a look at the overall standings. After we've gone through 4 out of 16 of our tracks, no surprises. Jordan Penne sitting right at the top with 3 first-place finishes and into the triple digits, 101 points. Josh Ritchie, though, still there, 3 second-place finishes, sitting at 69 points.
Robert Northway, well, is really critical. Slide yourself to the right. 3 fastest laps, 52 points, so it's really good. Scott McQueen, he's had a really good run today, and he sits in there with 2/3, which is pretty cool.
And then Ethan Moore obviously bringing up the top 5. Perhaps could have had a win today had it not been for that crash. Michael Robinson down at P6 on 32 points. And then Louis Di Manila, P7, 28. And Jake Parker, 24 points. Our feature driver tonight just didn't quite have it to match those front guys. So hopefully we'll see Jake maybe getting a little bit more pace in those qualifiers.
Yeah, and importantly as well, I got to give a shout out to Louis as well, moving into that 7th place spot. Yes, it does push Jake Parker, who said, hey, look, I don't want to be 8th. Unfortunately, is 8th. But Louis, impressing everyone, moving up 1 slot, actually doing a little bit better in the races tonight. So I want to see the full potential of Louis Di Manila, because I feel like there's a lot of untapped racing potential there, because given the time, he could very well be contesting the top positions there.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing, I've said it multiple times here, is the guys just need to go home and put seat time in. Some of these guys are spending hours and hours on end every night. Mrs. is making me dinner. I'm getting in there. I'm going to bed late. I'm going to work tired, because they're putting in the time. So that's key, is put the time in. And if some of these key players like Louis do it, well, you might see some really good results coming out of the future.
Yeah, really excited to see it. Like I said before, want to see that fully untapped potential. But if you want to see your own fully untapped potential, but you don't have the game, well, you're in luck because Bandai Namco have indeed hooked us up with a copy of the game. Get onto social media, tweet at Let's Play Live HQ with the hashtag ProjectCars2NZ and tell us what car did you first fall in love with. And of course, guys, we are going to be back next week. So before we close out the show, just final thoughts. What was the best thing you saw tonight?
I'd say the first race, and quickly, D1NZ Grand Final this weekend, Pukekohe Park Raceway. Be there, 200 k's an hour. The Grand Final for New Zealand. It's going to be cool.
And Simon, what about you? What was the best part about tonight? You're allowed to say the crash.
I really want to. I really want to say the crash because we saw a really interesting finish to that race and how it played out. But I think actually race 1, I think that was really cool because I don't think there was a single driver out there who said, I'm looking forward to Imola, and we had some of the best battles over the entire season. So I think, Imola was a highlight for me, and we saw some fantastic battles.
I really enjoyed Imola as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it from us here at LPL in the Sky Tower for the Project Cars 2 New Zealand Championship, brought to you by Star Insurance Specialists. Make sure you are joining us next week at the very same time because we will be going to the UK, and these races will be looking to earn more and more championship points. But until then, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
This Let's Play Live presentation was brought to you by Star Insurance Specialists, New Zealand's leading niche vehicle insurance provider. Sky City, world-class entertainment. Logitech G, gaming with science. And Samsung, redefine the game.